Hello, everyone. Let's see. Oh, I should probably just copy from there. See faster. All right. Do, 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 do. Ah, where is everyone? You don't disagree? Well, that's good. It's, it's always the good stance to take is not disagreeing on just support. Yeah, go ahead. You have a question? Yes, gender from care is really being removed. There's been multiple places that have passed laws, both countries and states that have passed laws banning it from minors, and it is actually important for minors to be to getting this care because that is when it's the most impactful. If you don't let like somebody transition at an age where like so like initially what you'd be doing is like going on puberty blockers, and those are completely reversible, and it gives people years to actually think about what they want to do. And if they want to go on to gender affirming hormones, this prevents them from having to do things like uh, knee top surgery, at least for females that are transitioning to men. So yeah, thanks for the follow. Yeah, you'd be surprised on how many people actually disagree. You wouldn't be surprised on how smart they are sometimes. So, hi, can I get your age and pronouns and if you disagree?
Yeah, 22, him.
And do you disagree with the background?
I disagree with something you said. Uh,
Which
your
is,
community and your people love to make the claim, and I've been studying biology for 4 years in university. Guys love to make the claim that puberty blockers are 100% reversible and that they don't have long term side effects and that you can just reverse them and go back to your normal growth. That's just not true. When we look at the stages of puberty and development within children and preteens and even adults, talk about late bloomers if you want to, we can encompass them. Puberty blockers are basically sterilization drugs. Let's just take young boys, for example. When you're in your first Tanner stage of puberty, your gonads are going to start producing a bunch of testosterone. And if you shut that process down, that's going to shut down all your AG1 and SHBG levels in your body. It's going to make your balls stop producing, or your testicles stop producing testosterone. Your gonads are going to be very small and they're not going to work. And you're going to get all the DHT removed out of your body, which is going to make your penile size extremely small. It's going to make your bones very weak and it's going to make you short and effeminate. It's also going to stop your mandible growth in your face and can really recess a man's features. So for you to say that these things are 100% reversible, while that may be the case for some, it's not the case for most. If we're just going based off of pure science.
well, it
So
really depends on how long you're on puberty blockers for. The idea is not to um like keep people on puberty blockers forever, that would be actually very harmful to do. That is very well understood. If you never remove somebody off of puberty blockers, yeah, they're going to be sterile because they've never developed as you know they would have gone through going through puberty.
What
Um,
about if you skip Tanner stage 1 and continue with Tanner stage 2, 3, and 4? You don't think
uh,
there's going to be anything bad happening there?
from my understanding, it's that they don't even use puberty blockers until standard stage 2.
That's not true.
That's what I
But
think the
they
W
use.
path recommends. Um,
Well, they might recommend it, but that's not what they do. So yeah. So why do you think it's reversible? You made the claim, which is false information. Your live can actually get. I could report that and get your live taken
well,
down
of
for
course
that.
you would. Of course, it would be you who would
I
report
haven't.
that. But
I haven't because I wanted to talk
it's
to you first before I do, just to make sure that maybe you could take that claim back because it's very dangerous to be peddling that claim. That's like saying heroin has no side effects if taken at
well,
the
that's
appropriate dosage all the time.
well, that's clearly
Maybe
a
the
very
case for
different
some.
thing.
No, it's really not. I mean, it's actually better to take. I would, if I was a doctor, which I'm going to be in the future. I'm studying for my MCAT now. I would rather prescribe a child heroin than leoprolide, which is a common puberty blocker given to children. So
Yeah, and also your claims about so what I claimed is that they're mostly reversible. They don't have like if you are on puberty blockers for like let's say 6 months to 18 months, the effects of them are largely going to subside afterwards. You may lag behind a little bit of your peers compared to if you look at like Z scores. Um, but when people go on
a
to
little
like
bit.
well, I mean, if you actually look at like, I've actually looked at. There's many studies that look at people who go on puberty blockers and then gender affirming hormones, and for some, their puberty, their bone health is actually better on average, very
It's not
slightly,
possible.
than their peers. They have higher bone
That's not
density.
possible.
I can
The
pull up the
only the
study if you'd
only the only
like.
studies that was saw in was women on testosterone because it was hardening your DH and IVF levels
Well,
in
well,
your
you said
body.
that
That's it.
wasn't correct, but
Well, it's not correct
it also
because
begs the question
you're
of
speaking from an all perspective. You're saying actually in some it increases bone mass. I'm
yeah,
like,
well,
okay,
it does
that's not true.
when you go
That's
on
not
gender
true unless
affirming
a woman's
hormones,
on
it does
testosterone,
increase. So
which isn't
it
a puberty blocker. That's not
when you
testosterone's not a
do
puberty
go on
blocker.
gender affirming hormones, your bone density does increase.
Oh yeah, how would that work if you gave a young boy what's it called, leprolide? How would that work? How would it increase their bone density?
I said when you
Give
go
me the
on gender
biological
affirming
issue.
hormones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
so
that's what that
so
is.
estrogen and
That's what
testosterone.
leoprolide is. It's what Lupron is. It's what Eligard is. It's what that is.
So yeah, whenever you go on estrogen or testosterone, bone density does increase because they are developing
What are you
hormones.
talking about?
So when somebody's on
You're saying a male on estrogen will have a bone density increase? Give me the science before I report your live for
yeah, I can give
misinformation.
you the um the study I'm referencing that looks at this. Um,
Looks at what? What does the abstract say? What does it tell you?
Let me
It
scroll up.
it says men on estrogen have an increased in bone density.
The objective was to describe bone mass development in adolescents with gender dysphoria treated with GAH or gender
Treated with what?
gondo
Growth hormone? You give young
with
boys growth hormone and their bones get
gondotropin
bigger?
releasing hormone analogs,
Whoa!
GnRAH, and subsequently treated
Yeah,
with gender affirming
GnRH, and
hormones.
it's
Yeah,
called a GnRH antagonist. That's what it is.
yeah, GnH,
Yeah, I know what
GnRA.
you're talking about. Yeah, I've been studying this for just over 4 years.
Yeah, and the main outcomes is that bone mineral apparent density, um, age, sex-specific BMAT Z scores, and oh, that's they're measuring. The results was at the start of GN or HA treatment, mean a real bone mineral density, BMD, and BMAD values were within normal range of
Do
in
you know
all
what
groups.
GnRH means?
Yeah,
What does it mean?
it's gondotropin releasing
You
hormone
don't even know how to
analogs.
say it. It's gonadotropin releasing
Yeah,
hormone. You
I'm
don't know
sorry,
what it
but
means.
like I don't study this every single like I don't study this
Okay, then
particular
maybe
thing
you
every
shouldn't
single.
talk about it. If you're not studying science and then you're talking about science and then you're up here talking to kids on a kids app saying that puberty blockers are 100% reversible when somebody that studied science for over 4 years, like me in university at a
Well, I
top
didn't make the claim that
university.
they're entirely reversible. It's just that they
I've been
largely
saying
are
that's what you.
reversible.
Yes, you did. You did make the claim. That's why I'm up here. If you said that, you might be able to recover some, but for the majority, you're not going to be able to recover fully. I wouldn't be up here because I don't have an issue with people going on puberty blockers. I do have an issue with people like you peddling the narrative that it's 100% safe and effective and reversible, which is what you said. You said it's 100% reversible.
Well, it is
100%.
the
That
best.
means
This
without
does lead to
a
the best
burden of a doubt.
outcomes. It does lead to the best outcomes in terms of mental health.
It does. Okay, what's the best outcomes? That's completely subjective.
Yeah, so it's comparing versus people who haven't received any sort of affirming care. If you
These
actually
are
offer,
completely subjective analysis.
I mean,
That's
you
what
can
that
look at
is.
you can actually just look at like life outcomes, and that's not subjective at all.
That's correlation. You're gonna have to give me the causation and prove it's because of the puberty blockers,
Yeah,
which you're not
so
gonna find. Which you're not gonna find because it doesn't
yeah,
exist.
puberty blockers
Because
aren't
people,
used for gender dysphoria. They're used to treat prevent further dysphoria. They're not actually used to actually treat gender dysphoria itself.
so why give it to them? If you're
Because
not treating, why put a band-aid on the fucking dam that's leaking water? Why not patch it all up? Why put a single band-aid on it? Doesn't make sense. That's a very bad faith argument.
yeah, so what do you even understand what gender dysphoria is?
Yeah, but you don't understand what gonadotropin
Yeah, so
releasing
what is the
hormone
problem
is.
with individuals with gender dysphoria?
The issue is that it's a mental illness that encompasses all other mental illnesses like anxiety and depression.
Yeah,
So
what
as
is
a
the
kid,
source of the problem,
a kid
though?
might have anxiety and depression, and he
Hmm.
might think he has gender dysphoria because 70% of people that are transgender, that claim to be transgender, have underlying mental health conditions like suicidal ideations, substance abuse, anxiety, depression, all of that.
Yeah, that's a
So,
correlation, not a causation.
well, I have 2 studies and abstracts with the PMID number to prove that otherwise. That
Yeah,
shows the
I also
correlation is because
have I have studies that
to
show
show
that
that
the number
because
one
they're
predictor
transgender.
the number one predictor of mental health outcomes is support in the family. So if you
Okay,
have
well, that's completely
individuals,
subjective. It's completely subjective. I have
no,
objective
this is
proof.
mental health outcomes. So this is well, if you're saying
So
that
what
these
does the
people are
abstract
suicidal,
read? What
that's
does it
also
tell
just
you?
subjective then. So you're just fucking killing,
What is
shooting yourself in the foot repeatedly. If you're
what is
gonna
your
say that these are subjective or not.
what is your well? No, you have no studies. That's the
Yeah,
issue. You have
so
no studies. You made the claim. You made a claim that was completely false. That could get you taken off of TikTok, and you still are trying to defend it. You said
yeah,
puberty
so
blockers are
if I said that
100%
they were
reversible.
100% reversible, I
That's
misspoke,
not
and I apologize. They're not
okay.
entirely
Well,
reversible all the time.
that's a big misspoke. That's a big one. That's like writing a PhD thesis
Yeah,
and
I'm not a
sending it out with
PhD
a
though.
thousand fucking errors. That's what it's like doing, because you're a dangerous person. You're grooming children, and that's what I don't like. That's why
Yeah,
people have a big
how am
issue
I
with your
grooming
community.
children? Explain to me.
I'll tell you how. You're on a
Because you're actually
children's app.
making like a no.
Let me tell you.
I would say that this is an 18
Let me
plus
tell you.
live. I would
Well,
even
okay. Well, you're on a children's app that the average age for a TikTok user is 14 to 17. You're on a children's app talking about gender
I
affirming
would also
care,
call
saying it's
those
100%.
adolescents, not
You're saying it's
children. Just
100% the
FYI,
children's app.
children are like under the age of 13.
You're saying it's okay, teenagers app, whatever.
Yeah.
On an app grooming teenagers
How am I
to
grooming them?
believe that that if they hop on puberty blockers and they regret it, that it's 100% reversible. So just try it. That's what they're gonna think. They're gonna think it's 100% reversible anyway.
I'm not
That's like
telling
putting
anybody to
some
hop on puberty
putting some in there
blockers.
and taking it back. So you're grooming children with a
Who am I
false
telling?
idea
Who am I
that
telling
you
to hop
yourself
on
doesn't
puberty
believe.
blockers? Who am I telling to hop on puberty blockers? Who have I
You're
told to hop
indirectly
on?
telling people. You're
Oh,
indirectly
so
telling
you admit
people.
that I'm not actually telling people this?
That's not.
That's a
Well, I
huge
mean, it's gonna be.
concession.
That's not. No one conceded to anything. I don't think you know the definitions of words that you use. You didn't
Yeah,
even know how to
so
pronounce gonadotropin.
yeah,
So
because I
for
don't
one,
speak the, in
I'm not going to
everyday
argue
language.
science with someone that doesn't know what a GnRH antagonist is. I've studied this for too long to talk to like a dummy about it. But what I will say is, I will just go back to my regular claim, and that you said puberty blockers are 100% reversible.
Yeah, I've already
That's like,
conceded
damn
that
it,
they're
that's
not
like
100%.
you
That
can.
they
Well,
do
that's
cause
your claim you
some.
made.
Sometimes they are entirely
No,
reversible, but that
no,
overall
that's
they're
not
largely
possible.
reversible.
You can't mess with your endocrine system and not have your LH and FSH levels out of whack. Even if you took puberty blockers one time, your LH and FSH would still be out of whack, which could be completely cooked for some people, depending on their genetics. Some people might rebound from that, some people might not. So for you to sit up here and boisterously say, Puberty blockers are 100% reversible. Is grooming.
Yeah, and you
That's
keep
what it
putting
is.
this
You're
idea that
selling
I've said
someone.
that, and I've already conceded that would have been a misspeaking if I said that.
Well, that's
And
not
I apologize.
misspeaking. A hungry man thinks of
Well,
bread.
wait, hold on. You keep putting
That's not
words
a
in my mouth.
misspeak.
I know
That's
that
a
you like putting
Freudian
things in
slip.
people's mouths.
That's you admitting to the world that you don't know what you're talking about. You just have horrible ideas and ideologies. Which is why no one
ideologies.
likes
So now
your
these are
community.
ideologies now.
Why
That's
do you think so
hilarious.
many people like Blair White?
Blair
Why
White?
do you
I
think
don't
so
know who
many
the fuck
people
that
like
is.
what's that one trans man name? Everyone knows him. He was on GQ, Jubilee. He has a beard. Everyone knows him. Something Buck.
Oh,
His
Ken
last name
Buck.
Buck.
He's. Oh, I know of
Buck.
him. Just
His
recently,
name's
though.
Buck or something. Why do you think everyone respects him?
I
It's
think
because
he's
that's a
fucking
real
hilarious.
transgender man. It's a real female that turned into a male. That
Well,
will
you just
tell
called
you
him
the
a
truth.
transgender, and
That
you actually
has done the science.
I'm surprised that you're like actually properly like you're not like misgendering him. That's so like woke of you.
It's because I have respect for all individuals. I have no respect for grooming liars.
Yeah. So who have I groomed?
have hatred in my heart for people.
Who have I
like
groomed?
that.
You're
grooming
misspeaking.
people on the internet.
Who have I groomed?
Do you even know what grooming means?
Let's give it a goog. Grooming definition.
Yeah.
The practice of preparing or training someone for a particular purpose or activity. So how am I training or preparing anybody for anything?
Grooming, I would say it's more where someone in a position of power, which would be you hosting a live on transgender people in affirmative care, which would be the power structure there.
Yeah, so I don't speak to anybody under the age of 18.
You're talking to vulnerable people on the internet.
Yeah, I'm not speaking to anybody underneath the age of
them.
18. That's against TikTok terms of service.
No, I already said I'm over 18, but that's
but that's
not barring people to it doesn't say leave if you're under 18. It says only if you're 18 can you join.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean people under 18 cannot view. So I'm just telling you right now, that's the definition of what you're doing. I'm just saying, if that was an honest mistake, which I really don't think it is, I think that was a Freudian slip into what you actually believe, because you're ideologically struck by this entire thing. I would say that never say that again, because that's just completely untrue and it makes you look really stupid.
So what is untrue about saying that puberty blockers are largely
slip.
reversible if used properly?
What's up?
Would it be incorrect to say that puberty blockers are the side effects of puberty blockers are largely reversible if taken medically in a medically encouraged way? So like less than 2 years.
That would be completely incorrect.
Largely. So
yeah,
bone mass
largely.
doesn't.
Actually, you would be correct in saying largely you're not going to be rebound fully from that. You would be medically correct, scientifically accurate if you were to say being on Luprin, Gelaxidin, these drugs were given to prisoners in Guantanamo Bay to castrate them, and now they're given to children. So you have a bunch of these drugs that shut down your gonads.
Those are hormones, not puberty blockers.
This is a part of puberty blockers. It shuts down your gonads. How do you stop puberty in a young adolescent boy? How do you do it? You shut down their balls so they cannot produce testosterone.
So it's almost
That's
like
what you do to stop puberty.
Yeah.
What did they do to the prisoners in Guantanamo Bay? They castrated them with the same drugs.
So puberty blockers don't cause castration.
Listen, bro. I'm not going to debate a Google warrior. You're not prepared for this conversation.
Well, I mean, I am just going to say that
I'm talking to you in my bed on my phone.
Yeah, you can crash out all you want to, but unfortunately for you, puberty blockers don't.
This entire time.
Yeah, puberty blockers don't castrate individuals. Agreed.
You're mad I cooked your entire life.
Yeah, do puberty? Yeah, to make sterile.
Castration? What's castration?
To make sterile. I know that you want to pivot.
Okay,
it's
so
to
what
make
puberty
sterile.
blockers shut down the gonads on boys?
Yeah, so if you are on puberty
what does that
blockers
do?
themselves,
Is that not castration?
They temporarily pause puberty if you don't.
So
get
that's
off...
not Okay, that's cool. You can say they temporarily. How does it work?
Oh, I don't need to know how they work in order to know that they're just temporarily.
What do you mean you don't know how to? What? You don't know how to? What? You don't know? What do you mean you don't know how? What?
Man, 2026
you don't
has been
need
like
to know
wild
how
for guests.
Castrate someone before
no,
you say
they don't.
Doesn't?
They don't cause do puberty blockers themselves cause infertility?
Listen, bro. I'm gonna wish you the best luck. I don't know how old you are. I don't know if you went.
I'm
to
26.
College. Jesus Christ, man. I wish you the best luck. You're really stupid for your age. I'm younger than you, yet I'm so much more informed on
Yeah,
science than you,
if you're talking about medical
and
areas, you might be more informed, but unfortunately
much
for you,
more
this
informed,
is.
like astronomically, like the
But
two
you're the ones who's
worlds are
making the
like
claim
not
that like
colliding.
puberty blockers are castrate individuals when that's not the
They
case.
do. You don't even know what castrate. Your claim right there. That's all I need to know because I don't argue bad faith to begin with. But you were just bad faith there. You were good faith up until there. You're like, I don't need to know how the drug works to say it. I'm like, all right, this is a
Well, I
mess.
don't need to
This
know
is fucking. This is
exactly.
just stupid.
Hold on, hold
You're
on.
not
I
even
don't need to know.
interested in how it works.
Let's. Do I need to know that how caffeine works and interacts with the brain in order to know it gives me more energy? No, I don't.
That's not
Because
what
that's
we're
fucking
talking about. We're
stupid.
not talking
I.
about a stimulant, you dumbass bitch.
But
We're
oh
talking
yeah,
about
I grant
drugs
that
that
you.
stop your sexual development.
Yeah, that's what it
Are you
does.
fucking retarded?
No, and that's a slur, unfortunately
Okay,
for you.
okay, you're
And I'm not
retarded
gonna
is
let.
the issue.
Got it. So yeah, I'm not
You don't
gonna
have the
talk to
privilege to
people.
speak to me.
Yeah,
I've studied
that's.
too hard to talk to retards like this.
Yeah,
Really.
unfortunately for you, I'm not gonna let
I'm
you
gonna I'm gonna
say that
talk.
anymore.
I'm gonna.
And unfortunately for you, you can't slur on TikTok. And that is a slur. And have a nice report with that too. Let's see. Do 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 do. Yep, there you go. Have a good one. Yeah, 2026 has been wild so far for guests. I don't understand what's up with them. They've been awful so far this year. It's been quite funny. Um, Hi Purdy, can I get your age and pronouns, please?
Yeah, I'm 39.
Can I get your pronouns as well?
I'm not trans, so I don't need to.
Well, I mean, I would like to, be able to, speak with you
Yeah, well,
respectfully.
I'm not trans, so I don't need to. I'm not point 0.5 of the Earth's planet.
Well, so I'm going to assume you go by he, him. You
I'm
identify
just
as a
gonna
male.
say I don't know and I don't care
Okay,
of
so
answering that
do
question
you,
because it's just it's crazy.
it's a thing of respect is how I see it.
No, not really.
So
It's
would
just
would you find it
it's just
dehumanizing to be
very
called an
persistent.
it?
What's that?
Would it be dehumanizing for
No,
me
that's
to call
just
you like an
that's
it?
basically just that's basically being condescending, basically.
Okay, yeah.
Hateful.
Yeah, so
Hateful.
I would find it
Hateful.
disrespectful.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so
hateful.
that's why I ask. So
Yeah, well, 0.5% of the world needs to, basically understand that it's not going to go their way.
so what do you mean by that?
What do you mean by what?
Well, it's not going to go their way. I mean,
No one needs to know your pronouns. It's
I
hello, hi, how are
yeah,
you?
I think it's respectful though, and actually reduces harm to be respectful to individuals.
No, that's not going to be a thing. It's not going to happen. Let it go. The whole
Okay.
pronoun thing's not going to catch on.
Well,
It's not
anyways,
going to be. It's not going to be a part of the real world. Let it
yes.
go.
So why shouldn't
That
I
that that's just part. That's just part of the persistent, consistent. Uh, Probably the
insistent?
people that are on the spectrum can't get away from that. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I
yeah,
find it funny how you bring up people on the
yeah,
spectrum because it's.
yeah, yeah,
Do you see as people who are
yeah.
autistic as odd, or do you
They
see
won't
autism
change.
as a reason
No, there's
to
nothing wrong with
question
them.
them?
Autism is not something wrong. It's
Oh,
just that
okay.
they just won't change, and that's okay.
Well, yeah, trans
But it's
people
like I
don't
said, it's not going to
change.
change. It's not going to change the world.
Well, I think that's a
Ninety-nine point
quite
99.5% of the world, it's not going to change. Get over it.
I think you have
It's hello.
a.
It's hello. Hi. Or my name is Mike. Hi. How are you? Or is this the place where I can send in my application? Oh, is this where the party's at? Oh, is this the library? Yeah, okay, can I get a card? No, none of that is going to ask you for your pronouns. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, so
Cope
this
with it.
is this is a
Understand.
trans like inclusive space. I like to actually,
No, this is TikTok.
yeah,
It's
which is
TikTok. It's like
also a trans inclusive
Facebook.
space.
It's a
Um,
Facebook. It's not yours.
yeah,
It's a
so
bunch
so
of
I have
Chinese
to
people. It's a
follow the
bunch of Chinese
rules.
people.
I have to
It's a
follow the
bunch of
rules of the
Chinese
platform.
owners. There's
Agreed?
no rules. TikTok they have rules, but they're not your rules. It's not your
Yeah,
platform.
but I have to follow those rules
But
that they
this is
give
a
us,
yes.
correct?
No, it does not ask you for pronouns.
I don't
Sorry.
have to, but it is against their pronouns to
No, but
intentionally.
it's not. It's not. The rules are set to not smoke, drink, things like that.
Yeah,
Not to
so
not know your pronouns, okay?
I'm
Thank you.
actually have
All right,
their.
let's go on. Let's move on to the next thing.
Okay, so
Okay, so let's move on to the letters. So a gay person is a man who likes a man. Now, a trans woman that likes a man,
yeah,
are they heterosexual?
I would say so if you're basing
Oh wait,
gender
oh,
as or your
oh,
sexuality
so
based off of
oh. So being gay, a gay man is not, so a
it's
woman could be gay now.
this depends on how you
A
are
female, a female can be gay. Do you
s-
know how this could work out? You know how this could be fixed, and the rest of the world will be happy and leave you
well,
guys
you
alone?
say
You
fixed,
know,
but so that's implying
I
that
mean,
there's something wrong.
I'm telling you how this world would react if you guys can just accept one thing. Just accept it.
What's that?
A trans woman who likes men is a gay trans man. Keep the word trans. Stop separating sex and gender,
Well, they
and
are separate things.
keep the trans.
Yeah, so do
That's
you
it.
understand what trans
Accept it.
means?
Just accept the trans. I know the whole thing about the sex and the gender. Yeah, you don't have to
Well,
go down that
it is
rabbit
a
hole.
Latin
We don't have to
prefix.
go down that rabbit hole. Do
Okay.
you understand?
Yes.
Accept the word trans. Stop trying to be a full woman. Stop trying to be a full man. And then you got the non-binaries that don't even want to be a man or a woman. And it's fucking crazy. You know who I think has the option to ask or to say that they're either a man or a woman is the intersex. I actually think they have the option to say, hey, this is what we are. But
S-
guess what? If that window is open, then every trans person is going to change their sex or their gender as intersex so they can get away with it. But see, that's the whole problem.
Do you even
Accept
understand
the word
what
trans.
intersex conditions are?
Accept the word trans. That's all you need to do. Get over it. Thank you and have a good night. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I grant that you don't want to run. Yeah, no, I had no, illusions that I would be changing their mind. What the fuck is 2026 for? I had one yesterday. Oh no, this is like pretty par for the course. Is there anybody else requesting? No, nobody is requesting. So if you do want to come up and talk, I am open to ops. Um, yeah, two crash outs in a row. Um, what was it? The fifth? I had who was it? We had some people that were like clearly misogynistic, and it was really funny. I had a blast the other day, just laughing my ass off at them. And thanks, King, for the gifts. Thanks for all the roses. This guy does so women can be. I know, right, Allie? So women can be gay now? What? Hi, Rachel. Can I get your age and pronouns, please?
Yeah, she, her, and I'm 42.
I support transgender individuals and affirmative care. Why shouldn't I?
Um, I mean, I think in some cases it's good and you should. I do have concerns as far as when it comes to making decisions that can't be erased
Hmm.
on children. Um, and I also have concerns about because like my sibling is transgender and she is also autistic, and I'm seeing a lot of my friends who are have autism are um, going through, I don't want to call it a phase, but that are transitioning, and I'm concerned that they're thinking that the reason they feel othered by society is that they're transgender, and that they aren't realizing that that's kind of part of what autism is. And so I have concerns about like how do we know that people are doing it for the right reasons? How do we know, that people aren't going to abuse the new policies in order to hurt women? How do we know, that people aren't going to regret it further down the line and feel like they can't go back and then they're stuck? And those are my concerns.
Yeah, so I think I want to bring up some numbers just so we're kind of clear on roughly what's percentage of the population would we even be talking about. Um, the general understanding is that out of like the general population, rates of autism are like what 4% or something like that. And in transgender individuals, it's roughly 4.8 to 26%, depending on what study you look at. It's generally um higher, and there's definitely a correlation between the two. That does not mean that, however, either one has a causation on the other. We do know things such as autism tend to be genetic, and the current data on things like like gender diverse, if you're having like gender diverse ideas, are tend to be at least somewhat genetic to some extent. It's this is based off of things such as twin studies, where they look at the results of twins, the outcomes of twins versus like non-twins. And the idea is that if like two twins tend to be more, if both of them end up being like autistic or something, it's and versus other, if like there's a high correlation between the uh twins who have autism versus like the general population who has autism, it tends to lead to the idea that these things are genetic. Um, it is a there's a lot of like I would say a lot of like questioning that happens that I'm sure some of it is in good faith, but I think a lot of it is quite harmful to individuals where like I'm autistic myself. I see these things such as like social uh, constructs like gender and just look at them and say, oh, this clearly doesn't work properly. And like I don't see why we should accept this in the first place. So like a bunch of trans people or a bunch of autistic people being non-binary, I totally can understand that. Um, but I often just see it as something that is used to question them, not um, a reason to take people seriously. And if anything, it feels like to me that whenever somebody is autistic, it might be a reason that we should take them even more seriously, because of the already um, what is it like the stigmatization and the marginalization that we already do to autistic individuals.
Yeah, my concern is that these individuals want to feel like they're a part of something because they've been othered throughout, their childhood. They've been put in special classes or treated badly by their classmates. And my concern is that this is almost that being transgender can almost be um, a band-aid because it provides like an insta community. And what happens to that community when down the road they realize, oh, wait, like, I don't think I actually am a woman.
Okay,
Um,
so
and that's something I'm really concerned about because I have a lot of compassion for people, and I just wouldn't want anybody to ever feel like they can't go back, if that makes sense.
I'm autistic. I was not othered growing up because I was actually excelling in a lot of subjects and classes. So I was never I wasn't even diagnosed until I was an adult. And I've known that I'm not a man and I'm not a woman since I was 5, are my earliest memories. And so also like I didn't like choose to be part of the trans community. Like I just am trans, therefore I had the other people who are trans are around me. That's the community that I'm in. But if you think people are just looking for acceptance, why do you think they would choose to? Which this is your logic, not mine, because I don't think people choose to be trans. But why do you think that's the community they would want to be a part of rather than a community that isn't being persecuted legally across the country right now?
Because I think that there's when you look at the LGBT community, there's a level of acceptance and instant friendship that you see happening that you don't really see among cisgender friend groups. And again, my experience based on this, I'm glad that you weren't othered as a child, but my sibling that's autistic was and is to a certain degree still. And so I know for her, like, coming out as a woman has meant a whole new friend group has opened up for them. There's support groups she goes to. There's
I'm glad they
church
have access
groups
to
and
those resources.
like social things. And so my concern is that it's just kind of the band-aid effect, I guess.
Uh, which I mean, again, people don't choose to be trans, but also like if you could choose, like, you could quote unquote choose any minority community. They're all persecuted, so but like they all have the same structure of this like quote unquote instant friendship, which doesn't happen, by the way. One of my old friends who I now like see as a pretty awful person is trans. Same with the other friend that I had that I no longer have, even as an adult. And so I didn't just like get friends for being trans. You don't just get friends if you're disabled and you hang out in groups of people that also have disabilities. You don't just become friends with people if you're a part of an ethnic minority and they are too. You don't just instantly gain friends. I'm really glad that your sister has that experience and that she has access to those resources, but that's just not how it works for the point you're trying to make, at least.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you there. Because
Why?
they didn't she didn't come out until she was 36. And when we were children, like, there was never any, because like I've got cousins that are gay, and when they were like 13, 14,
Being
15,
gay has
they
nothing to do with being trans, just to be clear. Sorry.
right. But if I can make my point without being interrupted, please. um they they would come out to us, and we were all like, yeah, we kind of figured that. Like, we didn't say that. We said, we love you and we accept you. But there were always signs, whereas with my sister there were no signs. She was all boy, like video games where you're shooting people, and no interest in hanging out with my sister and me.
Did you just say the T slur? Did I hear that correctly?
I
Or am I
didn't.
tripping?
I did
Okay.
not say that, no.
Okay, sorry. I was also speaking, so it was hard for me to hear. That's why I asked and clarified. But like, you can't say that, because I also, growing up, and also the reason I interrupted earlier is because you're tokenizing other people in your family, and I don't really like that as a person who's a part of the LGBTQ plus community and who has been tokenized a lot throughout my life. People don't like to be tokenized, and I don't think that's great. But
I mean, they tokenized me as their disabled cousin, so I'm not really concerned about it.
cool for you if you're okay with it, but minority groups typically aren't. So please don't do that to other people unless you
Okay,
have
well,
permission.
disabled people are a minority group, so please don't talk down to me.
I'm saying you are the exception. I'm not saying you're not in that group, okay? I'm saying you are the exception. Most of us don't want to be tokenized, all right? So let's not do that. And B, I was 19 when I came out, because I didn't know what non-binary was until then. I didn't have access to the education, first of all. Second of all, I was othered by my family for even the thought of me having a different sexuality. When that happened when I was 12, I knew that I couldn't come out to my family safely for a long time. It took, most people never change in the way that my family did in order to accept me. I have parts of my family that did not change to accept me, and they're cut out of my life at this point. And so, like, it's not always about the age or signs. Sometimes people are just trying to fit in and they don't want specific people to know. Sometimes people don't even know that being trans is an option. So they're just trying to like survive and not get bullied, and then they get the education later on in their life, whenever that is, and then they're able to come out, and because they know who they are, they finally have had access to that information and are able to have the time to explore it and find out whether they are trans or not. So I'm glad that eventually, like, your sister was okay coming out, but just because she played video games that were like combat video games, just because she did certain things that you align with masculinity and with boyhood when she was a child, doesn't mean that she was a boy. She was a girl, but she just did boy things. And she's male too. None of us deny that either. She just did boy things.
Right, but there was just so many opportunities to do girl things, and because like I have a biological sister as well, and we're the three closest in age, and so I'm sorry. Do you have your volume up high? I don't know where that echo is coming from.
You're echoing, Cole.
And so there was a a lot of opportunity to play more with us or associate more with us, and it wasn't like that at all. And so, and also, they're not non-binary, so I don't know what the argument of, well, I didn't know what non-binary was.
She could have
Like,
not
sure,
known that
that's a
being a
fair
trans
argument.
woman was a thing.
Can I finish, please?
I'm explaining further so that you understand and don't have to make a point that is irrelevant. I'm saying that she could have not known that being trans period was a thing, that she didn't know
No,
she
she
could be a
definitely
trans
knew
woman.
that. Like,
Lots of kids don't know about
we
trans
lived in a
people.
big city where there was a large community of people like that. Like,
That doesn't mean that she has had access to that information in a way that she can intake. Not necessarily.
And
I mean,
think it seems like your approach is to be like cautious about like what if there's like a huge spike in like detransition or retransition rates, and people like regret these things, but we haven't seen that, and the data that we have is even leaning that these regret rates are actually going down, if anything.
Yeah,
Like
and I do
the
wanna,
absolute numbers.
right, but for it to go down, it means that people have had to regret it, and that's why I'm concerned.
It's such a low number to begin with, first of all, and second of all, I just want to wrap up my point from earlier. We have a lot of evidence that shows why trans people aren't coming out, and not only that, some of the quote-unquote detransitioners or retransitioners, the people who stop their gender-affirming care, they do it specifically, and again, we have evidence to prove this, because they are unsupported by their family and their colleagues and their peers. So I'm making these points based off of evidence-based things, and you're just saying, well, no, I don't think so, and you don't have evidence. So that's the, like, before we shift, because it's okay to shift, I just want to, like, circle back and finish that point.
Yeah, the rates that we see are like generally accepted to be around 0.3 to 0.6%. At the very most, it might be 3% on if you're like really pushing what you would consider like regret or that kind of stuff. But like in terms of like internal regret, that I regret this because of, this wasn't for me. Those numbers are very low. The regret rates typically are from things like my surgery got botched, and that's just, any type of surgery can get botched. Open heart surgery gets botched sometimes. Plastic surgery gets botched sometimes. We live in a world where things don't always go right 100% of the time, and it really sucks when that happens. But a lot of it seems to be from external factors, not internal ones.
And just for reference,
Right, but the fact that
just for reference, really quick point, just for reference, I can't remember which is which. One is 20% and one is 40%. But those are the regret rates on hip surgery and knee surgery. So it's much higher in much more accepted practices. That's all.
Yeah, my concern is just still like within those in the autism community that do we know, like, have there been studies on whether it's the autistic people that are more likely to be, what do you call it, retransition or detransition? Has there been studies on that?
Well, at most you're looking at 12%, like at the absolute most, assuming like the worst case scenario where every single person who retransitioned was autistic, if they make up 20% of the population. Or sorry, 26%.
Right, but do you see why that's concerning to me? Because this is my sibling. This is a person that I love very deeply.
Yeah.
Do you have family that's had knee or hip surgery?
I mean, I've had my hip removed because I had bone cancer.
And you had the same concerns for yourself, I'm assuming.
Well, I'm not autistic.
Well, the regret rates are higher for that procedure than they are for gender affirming care.
I think bone cancer is a bit different, though. Like,
I mean,
not
just
really
because
like a
you have to get
voluntary
the bone
surgery
removed doesn't mean the regret rates are going to be any different. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't regret having that surgery. It saved my life.
And I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying that a lot of people do.
Yeah, I guess it seems like you're kind of being dismissive about the fact that there's that higher correlation, and that I think before we just go straight to affirming anybody and everybody, that we should spend more time looking into, how are we certain before, because according to my sibling, it's been extremely easy to just go into the doctor and say, this is how I feel. Great, let's put you on hormones. We could get you scheduled for surgery. Like, there's not a lot of like therapy and exploration when you're not a child.
How old are yeah?
And I have concerns about that.
When you're an adult, I think that I tend to think adults.
You said she's 36, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't really have a reason. Like, if somebody wants to go get plastic surgery, I think they should be able to go get it without much roadblocks. I don't see any reason why we should question trans people more about this. Especially when we're in a time where it seems that a lot of people are coming out because it's become a lot more socially acceptable to be trans. It's very clear that, when you're in a area that isn't socially accepting of trans people like to stay in the closet a lot more. And they take steps to actively mask who they truly are.
Well, but you just said earlier that why would they choose to be trans when
no
it's
one's
the most
choosing.
difficult? When it's the most difficult way to be, and now you're saying, well, but it's way more acceptable to be trans now, so that's why. So that's a contradiction.
No,
Well,
it's
they aren't
not.
choosing.
It
They're
is more
choosing.
socially acceptable. I was talking about legally. Legally in the US right now, we are being oppressed on a large scale.
Yes.
And also, if you have that energy for your 36-year-old sister, you would need to have the same energy for any 36-year-old adult human being. Let's say it's a cis woman who wants to go get a breast augmentation. You'd have to have the same
Yeah, I would tell them they
concerns.
don't need it.
And you would try to stop them from getting that legally, because that's what's happening right now.
I mean, I wouldn't like file an injunction with the court, but I would try to talk them out of it. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's wild, trying to talk somebody out of a surgery that they're choosing to get. Even if it's for the same reason, like an adult, a 36-year-old adult who's only ever had A cups, and they've felt this dysphoria because they never grew that big of a chest, and they finally at 36 are like able, whether it be financially or even socially, mentally being in a place to be like, hey, I do want this surgery. I do need this surgery. I'm going to get this surgery for myself. I think it's wild to try to talk a 36-year-old adult out of that, personally.
But I would say to them, like, God made you the way you are, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It's up to Keaton if we talk about God or not.
I wanted to bring up. I have actually looked at. I did find one art thing that did look at like regret rates and retransition rates. That includes autistic individuals and actually studies it. And it doesn't look like autistic individuals actually are like more likely to like regret anything. What's interesting is that like there's some like theory talk about like this is not actual like evidence. But like the idea is that even if autistic people had even slightly higher rates, this almost would make sense because of there is some stigma to like retransitioning, because people tend to be kind of tokenized at that point. When people retransition, it really seems that like the anti-trans community is like, oh, see, look, there's a huge regret rate because like there's a number of people that, like when you're talking about the population of billions of people on Earth, there's going to be hundreds, thousands of these people, even if they're like, 0.3% of 1% of the population. There's still a huge number of people we're going to talk about there. But it doesn't seem to be that, transgender youth with ASD were equal. Like, it doesn't seem like they were more likely to like be unstable about their thoughts or feelings.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you for educating me on that.
Yeah, I figured I would give it a Google search. I haven't looked at this paper entirely, but I did do a quick glance of it. But yeah, it seems to be that like when you actually start looking at these a little bit more closely, it doesn't seem that there's a huge difference. I wouldn't be surprised if there probably needs to be more research in this area because it is something that does matter. That being autistic and trans, there are going to be some things that are different, because just autistic
Right.
people have different needs than individual people's. I mean, as somebody who is autistic, this is something I'm deeply, deeply familiar with. I can't imagine how being trans on top of that would make anything better. It seems if it would be it make things worse. But it seems at least within the community, it's almost good that there's a lot of autistic people because they can help each other out, in that sense. That there's not even like you're not 4% of a 1% of the population. You're a fourth of the 1% of the population. You're a lot more. There's a lot more representation within it.
Yeah.
It is actually to
Well,
the point where like when you're talking about a fourth of the individuals, their needs are going to be more likely. I feel they're going to be more likely to be actually brought up and actually dealt with. Thankfully,
yeah.
but we were talking about God potentially. We can go into that if you want to. But both Cole and myself both kind of hold the position that bringing the idea of a god up is just kind of like I personally feel that the idea of like a mind that created the universe is just actually it results in a negation or a contradiction if you actually look at what that means. Because a god can't
I mean, we
exist.
don't have to go into it.
Yeah.
I just kind of wanted to share my perspective and my concerns for, my sibling and for people like her because I love her very deeply, and the last thing I want is to see her be hurt in any way.
Yeah, and to add to that, again, we have statistics that show this, things like lack of family support, and even if you say, okay, that's okay, and don't sit down and say, God made you this way, please don't get gender affirming care, which it sounds like that's what you're doing with your sister.
No, the only
And
thing I've said is that having had to use dilators because of my cancer, that it's extremely painful and to really consider that before getting bottom surgery. But otherwise, I've been supportive. I've used her pronouns. I've tried to teach her, like, things like why you don't bend over in a skirt, you squat, things like that, so that she would know not to expose herself that way. I've actually been pretty supportive.
I mean,
But
that's good to
it
hear
doesn't mean
because,
I don't worry. Of course I worry
yeah, it's
because
just
we're
the
6
opposite of
years
what you were
apart, so
telling
I'm
us
almost like a
earlier.
second mom.
It's just the opposite of what you were telling us earlier, which is that you would sit down with somebody and say like, "Hey, God made you this way. Please don't get surgery," So it's good to know that you're not doing that with her because what I was going to say is that again, we have statistics that lack of family support is a massive factor in trans folks having increased depression, increased anxiety, and increased suicidal ideation. Oh, SI, sorry, TikTok stuff. And if you just support her, even if you still have these thoughts, if you keep them to yourself, you're supporting her the best you can, and you're actually preventing harm by keeping it to yourself. Not to be like, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it kind of vibe. But when we look at statistics that we actually have this like pretty well studied at this point, finally, that's what we see as the answer of like, how do we not harm trans people? Oh, well, we affirm them. So
Yeah. Yeah, the bottom surgery thing, I just, having gone through it because I've been through radiation, and what a lot of people don't realize is if you have pelvic radiation as a woman, then things can fuse together when they're burned. And so having to go through to correct that was extremely, extremely painful, and I would like to spare my sister that. Um, as far as the hormones and all of that, that part is reversible.
not
And
entirely, but go on.
Yeah, not
well,
really. Puberty blockers,
it's more
yes,
reversible
more.
than bottom surgery, I guess is what I should say.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
so, I have said to be extremely, extremely careful before doing that, and that it's not something they should do within just a couple years of having come out. That they should definitely give it time. But other than that, I have been supportive. I've like I said, I've taken her to the mall and kind of
Yeah.
tried to take her under my wing and show her, like, you don't want to dress like that because that's how a 13-year-old girl would dress, and you're a 36-year-old woman, and so you need to, you don't want to look like you're cheap.
This is
and
kind of a
and
known
so I
issue
have,
somewhat with the trans community of people being like, oops, this is not how, like, it's natural though, like, in the sense that, like, they're exploring themselves for the first time and, like, getting to, like,
Yeah. I'm sorry, I do need to butt in because Allie made the point in there in the Discord that I was going to make, is that if it helps you at all, it's Rachel, right?
yeah.
Okay. If it helps you at all to know this, Rachel, this isn't, this is something just like your, well, no, that probably isn't because I don't know if you had dysphoria from needing bottom surgery, and then you were no longer dysphoric when you got it. That is the case for some cis people as well. But for her specifically getting bottom surgery, first of all, a couple of years is a long time. Second of all, it's probably been longer than that she's been thinking about it. And third of all, it is relieving, the point that Ali made. It's relieving pain and dysphoria for her. It may not be pain that you can see visibly, but she has a lot of mental pain that things like gender affirming care in the form of surgeries can help with. So even knowing that it might be painful to dilate, it's like she's deciding which pain is worth it, which pain is worse, which is the one she wants to go through. So know that even if she is taking on some pain, she's also getting rid of other pain.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like internal pains that like it's hard to understand somebody like if how they're feeling, because like body dysphoria is not something that most people really, I mean, like can like we might have an idea of it to some extent, where like if you feel like you're overweight you might understand that, but like I feel like I don't understand, like a lot of people can't understand that to like the fullest extent. And it is
Yeah.
something that like I have to like, repeatedly kind of go and say, hey, this is something I don't really understand, and I should really be listening to people who have actually experienced this to like get an idea of what it's like. And that's been helpful for me, at least understanding what we should be doing. Because like I'm cis, I'm straight. I'm not trans. I don't go through any of this. It's not something I personally deal with.
Right.
But I think the most important thing to do is listen to trans people when it comes to how they feel and this kind of stuff. And it seems like you're overall doing a good job, because there's far too many people out there that just reject people for being trans, and it leads to horrific outcomes. And I'm glad that your sister didn't have to deal with that necessarily. But
I
yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, and that is why I butt in as well. I don't know. I think I said earlier that I'm non-binary. So when I interrupt sometimes, it's because I know, sorry if you hear pill bottles, I'm filling my pill boxes. But I'm being trans, I understand what dysphoria is like. I understand why we choose to do things like get medical gender affirming care and medically transition. So when I butt in on those topics specifically, it's because I think I have some valuable information to share. And you did thank me for sharing already. So yeah, I just hope you hold that sentiment and understand that she is choosing the pain that is lesser.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's been nice talking to you guys, and I hope you have, or y'all, sorry, didn't mean to be gendered. But
It
yeah, y'all
happens.
have a good day.
I don't mind
misgender
guys
Cole
anyways, but
occasionally
thank you.
myself. Like, oops, it happens.
Yeah.
It's
So
yeah. I hope you have a good rest of your day. The biggest thing I would say is just remain supportive of them, and that's the best you can do. So,
I intend to.
all right.
Thanks.
Yep. Bye. Well, that was better than the rest of the guests in 2026 so far.
Yeah, not too bad. Sorry if you, again, I'm filling pill boxes, so if the background noise gets too much, just let me know.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard first guest, but he crashed out, slurred, and left.
Oh, well, I'm not surprised. I was indisposed at the moment. But yeah, that's when I got on. I think you were talking about the first guest, but he wasn't here. They weren't here. See, I use gendered terms when I don't know the gender of people sometimes. But anyways, yeah, I just heard her. But again, yeah, not bad. That part where when she did say like, I would sit down with them and like I wouldn't legally be against it, but I would sit down with them and tell them that's not how God made you and you don't need to go through this kind of thing. I'm like, oof, that's rough. But she switched it up and everything else. Like she was respectful. And again, like There were a couple times I interrupted, and again, I need to get better at this shit. But there were a couple times that I interrupted that I shouldn't have, and there were a couple times that I did that even if they were perceived as like, oh, well, you didn't have to do that, you know, by guest or you, I think that they were warranted with my like perspective and such. So yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Sounds like she listened, so that's good.
Hey, it's our wild Classy.
It is. Hello,
Here.
friend.
Oh, it's an Amy too. All the friends.
And
are
Amy
here.
too.
Wow.
All the friends. I'm almost done. I hate doing my pillboxes sometimes.
I remember last time I brought up pillboxes. I actually, that reminded me, I need a pillbox because I sometimes in the morning forget if I've checked my meds or not, so I have to wait for like 20 minutes to be like, no, I'm not feeling my meds. That's great, Amy. I'm glad that you can walk around.
Walking around is good. Ooh, you had the flu, right, Amy? That was really cool. I dropped a pill bottle lid, and it just spun around on the floor for a while on its own. All right.
It's spinny. Hypertension. I don't know. Oh. That just can't figure it out. Yeah, it sounds like doctors, unfortunately, sometimes. It's there's just so much that can go wrong with the human body. It's like impossible to tell.
A couple things. Yes, we have a request. Let me in. Please, maybe. But anyways, I have to go run a couple of errands. So I'm gonna leave again and then I'll be back. I've been pushing these off for like a week. It's freaking fine. All right, bye.
Bye. Hi.
Oh my god, hi! Oh my god, hi. What type of animal is on the background?
It's a stoat. A type of weasel.
A what?
Stoat.
A what? Stoat. Okay, whatever that is. I'm so proud of you for transitioning and being a Therian. That way I am really proud of you.
I'm not though.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. It's all good. I just like stoats. I think they're cute and vicious little beasts.
Yeah, it's really cute. I thought it was your like costume. My bad. I'm sorry.
No, it's just a weasel. They're the little fury.
That is really cute. So, what are you trying to identify as?
I am a male. I'm a guy. I'm just a dude. But I support transgender people in affirmative care. I'm an ally.
Can you explain what affirmative care is?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it takes a wide variety, or there's a wide range of affirmative care. Things from just socially transitioning is affirmative. It's supportive. It's affirming their gender. So just changing pronouns, changing how if you were to like infer gender to somebody, changing that. It could go to things such as medical transitioning as well, which involve puberty blockers, gender-affirming hormones, and including surgeries. And there's a huge number of different types of surgeries. There's voice surgeries where people will get they mess with the vocal cords to either like shorten or lengthen them, essentially, to make their voice higher or lower. So.
Okay, so I support that, but I have like a few questions. So I am personally like any pronouns because like I want to make everybody feel comfortable with calling me anything, and somebody called me pansexual for doing that. What the fuck does that mean? Am I pansexual for that?
No. Pansexual is like
I also did not understand like me having any type of like pronouns that you're comfortable with using makes me pansexual. Like that does not have
if anything, I'll make you trans.
No, they were trying to say that having any pronouns means that I like any people that identify as anything. Is that true? Because personally, that's not.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the correct pronouns. How old are you?
Yeah, because I have Down syndrome. This is why I'm like kind of stupid. So
How
okay,
old
I
are
landed
you?
or not.
Yeah, let's not tokenize people with Down syndrome. I know I've met plenty of people with Down. Yeah, thanks, Cole. I was just about to do that. Hey Jay, can I get your age and pronouns, please?
40. Oh, I just had a birthday. 42. He, him.
Well, happy belated birthday. I think that's the right word. Late
Yep.
birthday,
Appreciate
yeah.
you.
I support transgender people in affirmative care. Do you agree, or do you think that I shouldn't?
I believe you should do whatever you want, but I think the issue comes in play where X person tries to get Y person to do what they want in either direction, and I think that that is where the conflict comes from.
It depends. I would say that there's definitely cases where I could see people being overly pushy. But I would say generally when just like as a society making it normal that we should use people's, if we want to people to live like the best lives, we should as a society grow normal to the idea that people not always go by the pronouns that they appear by. Um,
Okay, so this is the thing. Do you understand that once you use the word should, we get into subjective territory,
I'm
and then my should and your should will be different?
I'm a moral objectivist. I think morals are objective, not subjective.
Well, I mean, how is that even like, I believe morals are inherently subjective. Like there's something like people made up. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, how are morals not subjective inherently?
Yeah, so like my ideas is that I base my ideas based off of the work of a philosopher named Alan Gaworth, and
Hmm.
he's created these ideas of universal human rights and the principle of general consistency, and they basically say that in order to be like a logically consistent individual, you must act within the boundaries of respecting everybody else's freedom and well-being whenever you take actions.
But that's
Um,
the problem. If I may jump in, um, there's going to be a person that person disagrees with, and their philosophy basically says, agree with me. Because you get what I'm saying? Because
yeah,
even the
so
person you're highlighting, okay,
the reason why I would hold this is that there's the argument goes that like we are purposeful agents so that we care like we inherently are individuals that care about the things that we do. Because of that, we care like we necessarily have to care about what we need in order to take actions and what we do. And you need two main things. It's a little bit more broad than this, but two main things. It's going to be your freedom, so like the ability to act, and the well-being, so like the actual like mental and physical ability to act. Um, and because we're purposeful agents, we have no other way to establish these ideas as being rights, other than to claim that they are rights based off of the actual things that like in order for agents to be worthwhile, like somebody who's able to make choices, they have to have the right to make choices and have that freedom. Um,
yeah, but then you have to afford that right to everybody.
yep,
And
that's the
I'm a
last point.
person. If, okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah, you actually jumped to the last point. Yeah, it's a universalization is that we must grant the same rights to all other agents in order to be logically consistent.
And that's what I'm saying is inherently contradictory. Because, for example, I'm a person that believes in objective reality. So whatever
Hmm.
your born gender is what I'm going to call you. That's not affirming. So you and I would disagree. So under the principles you just said, it just simply wouldn't work. You get what I'm saying? Because we can't be you can't appease my objectivity stance in how I want to live and appease. I don't want to be disrespectful. I'm definitely not trying to be like however you would phrase it. But you get what I'm saying? Your subjective nature.
Well, so
Like
the
two things
argument
can't be true at once.
Yeah, so the argument that I would take from there would be that it does cause harm to individuals by not being affirmative to them. This is just shown by the data that clearly shows that being affirmative of transgender individuals' gender leads to the best outcomes in their lives. And to do otherwise would be harming them. and it would be therefore wrong. So in order
Selling
to,
alcohol is harmful. Selling cigarettes is harmful.
well, yeah, I would
So
agree with
like,
you there. Actually, I don't think that we should have alcohol and cigarettes. I think that they're detrimental to society and individuals, but that's kind of besides the point.
well,
um,
no, it's because like if you don't afford people to kind of do things that are unhealthy in this case, then you're not really for agency of people. You get what I'm
well,
saying? Because you're saying yes.
like we do know what alcohol and cigarettes do to individuals down the road. It's the number, like some of the leading causes of death, preventable
We know
death.
what we know what burgers do to people. We know what sugar does to people.
Oh yeah,
So
no, I
like,
totally agree with
this
you
is
there
kind.
too. Like these things
But
are
you get
bad
what I'm
for us,
saying?
but we
Where
we
does
allow
the
them within
line?
society. And I think it's wrong that we do to some extent. I think our society has issues. I
But
think a
that's
lot
what
of
I'm
people
saying.
would say that.
If you go off of objective, what's best for your health, even coffee would be gone. So you would have to restrict so much freedom to do what is objectively best for society. And that's simply not what society wants for itself.
I think coffee's a bit of a. It's definitely a different category in terms of it's a light stimulant, and where
Inherently unhealthy.
if you take too much of it, it can cause issues. But if you stay within like 400 milligrams a day, typically it doesn't cause like lead to any sort of risks in terms of like more liver issues and that kind of stuff.
But if we
Um,
kind of use your framework of harm and look at what coffee actually does, again, like your standard with gender was and affirming was if it causes harm, correct? And now I'm
well,
saying to you, coffee, if I may, if
yeah,
I'm
go
saying
ahead.
to you, if you look at the stats and data, even though one cup of coffee won't hurt you, it's objective that Americans drink so much coffee, it hurts them. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So once.
it's definitely
Mhm.
within reason. Is that with like things like coffee? It's that there's
But that's where
too
the
much of
issue comes in.
anything. Too much of anything hurts you. Too much water causes your electrolytes to be stripped from your body, and you can go into a coma and die from that. It's there's clearly limits on like reasonable amounts. Like most people are under like able to understand that.
And
And we
what
should
I'm
help.
saying is, at some point in time, you have to draw a line. And once you draw that line, there's going to be people on opposite sides of that line. And that will inherently cause a conflict because individuals don't want to live the same.
Well, yeah, I think that's just going to be inherently how society does things, and that gets into like how we run society and politics and what we should do. Um, but I think that it's clear that within there is a line somewhere clearly. Where we draw that line, I think, is arguable. Um,
So, my point in bringing up health, getting back to the main topic, was we as a society have determined that harm does not factor as much as we would want it to. So when we talk about affirming people and the harm that brings, some people like myself are like, hey, listen, I don't want to harm anybody. I simply just don't want to call X Y or Y X. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry that, you get what I'm saying? Like if you're then saying, well, that's being harmful, the only thing that's going to cause me to say is just go, "Well, I don't know what you want me to do about that." Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it just, there's no alignment there that can be had.
well, I would find that it's like, especially within like people like different categories, like kids. These are like the number one leaders of, or the number one predictors of life outcomes. Like these are not. This is not minor harm. This is like doubling, tripling the risks of individuals getting, reliant on substances and that kind of stuff. Like this is a big problem that we need to actually address head on instead of um like just saying,
But
oh well, it's just their feelings. It is a little bit more than just that. It is the life of these individuals that we're talking
as
about.
I just
Not
pointed out, so is cigarettes, so is alcohol, so is sugar. And I believe I made a very fair point of just saying society looks at things that are harmful to society, and society itself determines if they allow it through Congress.
yeah.
And
So
society itself has looked at several things that are harmful and they allow it. Like, so when you then talk about why we shouldn't do something socially in terms of affirming gender, affirming and stuff like that, how do you resolve those two realities where objectively speaking, Society does nothing about cigarettes. Objectively speaking,
Well, we have
society
done
does
stuff about it.
in terms of like stopping. You're gonna like yes, we've raised
Well, hear
the
me out.
limit
This
and
is
stuff
this is
like that,
actually a
but
lot
like
more analogous than I think you might give it credit for. But like, we didn't want people smoking indoors anymore because it was like you don't have a choice otherwise than if you're inhaling like secondhand smoke. We don't want people drink and drive because that's putting others at risks. It's not like you're causing like you having a drink at your home at your house responsibly is harming anybody else. You're only causing any harm to yourself potentially, and maybe your relationships if it gets out of hand. But it's more than just like these things are like things that you're causing harm to yourself potentially. Like things like
but
lung
you also
cancer
do
from cigarettes. Like you don't. Nobody's forcing you to stand around somebody who's smoking a cigarette. There's no laws against that. In fact, it seems that we've kind of pushed that back and said, hey, this is not something that we want as individuals. Like putting others at harm. So this is actually directly in line with what I agree with, that we shouldn't be letting others' decisions cause harm to others.
but they do cause harm. Like smoking might not cause harm to the person in the room, but it causes harm to the society. Like if we look at the overall numbers, more people getting like okay, look at the healthcare system, right? The fact that we allow cigarettes means the healthcare system will be burdened more than if we didn't. And
Oh
then that
yeah,
healthcare, so like these are objectives. So like it may not be directly in the room, but if society allows X, it will then affect society. And you hit the nail on the head. We don't stop that person from smoking. So why? And you haven't suggested this, but in these hard terms, but why would somebody like myself, who is flat out telling you, to me, I just go with objectivity. I don't want to affirm somebody. Like, I'll leave them alone. I'm not trying to be malicious, but why is it okay in the case of smoking, drinking, let the individual do what they want, even if it has societal downstream effects, but you don't have that same standard with affirmation?
yeah. So the reason why is because it affects far more than just you directly. It affects those around you immediately. I don't think that we should allow like things such as smoking and drinking to continue personally. I think in an ideal society we don't have these things because they are clearly vices on our society. They cause far more harm than any sort of, at least where we are currently, they cause way more harm than they any good that they offer. Um, and I find that problematic. In the same sense that just like if you're to allow people to just bully each other in the streets constantly, they would cause a lot more harm, um, and than any good it provide. So like that's clearly something that we shouldn't allow, and we should take measures to reduce things like if we had bullying in the streets and that kind of stuff, like widespread that everybody was doing it. Um, and speaking of like objective harm and stuff, things such as like if parents bring their kids to things such as like conversion therapy, it leads to actual like economic burden in the United States. What is it? The One of the studies I looked at, it said um, every year um, there's a $9.23 billion burden due to conversion therapy efforts that are put onto the U.S. just in general. That
So my
we
argument, okay.
So like this is clearly that this is like causing financial harm to the country and in general. So not only are the people in this like who get forced to go through conversion therapy affected, it costs our society a lot of money actually. And we should really like this is why these things are being banned, is because they cause a lot of harm and they don't actually help anybody.
But that's exactly my argument with smoking and whatnot. And now you're saying, and I hear that you're saying that, we should get rid of it. But do you accept that if you got rid of smoking, drinking, and again, these are just kind of placeholders for the larger conversation, that there will then be citizens that pay taxes, right? Because like a person is not about health like that on average. A healthy person is. You know what I'm saying? People would rather do what they want versus what is best for them. Do we agree there?
Yeah, but like, doesn't society have like an obligation to prevent harm to people, like predatory
To a
things?
point.
Like, yeah. So it definitely does. Um, and like I think there's a balance somewhere, but that balance is clearly not just letting people do what they wish. Because
True, but
it's
this is my
clear
point. If
that,
I can, mhm.
yeah. Go ahead.
If I can toss this out real quick, thank you. But that's my point, right? Again, once you create a line in anything, there will be people who pay to live here not getting service how they want, and they will have a whole different mindset than you. So what you would then tell that person is, I'm sorry, this is what's for the best. So you're creating in some people who disagree with you the very aspects that you don't want in terms of what's going on with the gender issues in the country. Like, do you get that? Like, for
Well,
instance,
I
if I could,
have the.
last part,
Oh
I'll
yeah,
be
go
very
ahead.
quick. Last part, the pro AB versus pro life argument, right?
Mhm.
You can't resolve that. If one side wins, the other side will be forced to live in a way they don't want to. That's what you're saying here.
Yeah, so people who disagree with me are simply wrong. If you can disprove my argument for objective morals, that means that I could be wrong, or that my argument
Well,
falls apart.
I can.
But
There's no such thing
if,
as objective morals.
well,
Like
I
that,
provided an
I've been.
argument that does actually, conclude with, you must live in a way that conforms to allowing other people to have, access to their freedom and well-being, and if you take actions that negatively affect these in like a substantive way, you
Mhm.
can't do this. Like, this is just going to be a morally wrong thing to do, because
But he
if
gave an argument for moral for harm, not morals. Morals are, is this good, bad? People will have different looks on that. Like
yeah,
if we ask
so
somebody,
it,
if we ask somebody in the Middle East, what do you think about X Y Z? And then we ask somebody in the West, what do you think about X Y Z? Neither one is right or wrong. They're just different for
that's the brilliant thing
themselves.
about this argument, is that it's only
Hmm.
relying on some facts about who we are as humans, and like just some of the
Hmm.
very basic facts about us, that we do things for reasons, not that these, we care about these reasons as much as that we just know for a fact we do things for a reason, even if it's subconsciously. That
Hmm.
is a reason to do things, and morals are essentially reasons. If you were to reject like my argument, essentially what ends up happening is you have to either abandon logic, which is a completely irrational thing to do. You literally fall apart of, like, the argument just falls apart if you abandon logic. Um, or you have to devalue what you do, so you have to end up saying that we in fact do things for no reason at all. And I
We see,
just,
but that's not the argument I'm making. I'm making morals do exist. They're just subjective and man-made, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying, you know what I mean. So I'm not making the illogical statement that morals are not a thing. I'm simply saying they're not objective, because if they were objective, they would work the same in the East and West.
well, that's why. So like, we both agree that people in the East and the West both value their actions, correct?
Correct. But do
So
you agree with? Okay.
so based off of that, they must care about what's required for them to take these actions. This is like just something that is, like, if you care about the health, if you care about your child, you care necessarily about the health and the freedom of your child. These are things that just come along with, they're just a part of being, your child. Um,
Hmm.
so if you care about what you do, you care about what you need in order to take actions. Um,
I'll give
and
you an example. There's the tribe. You probably are familiar with them. Somewhere in a country in Africa, they do the thing with the lip plate with as a young child they'll knock out a couple teeth and then they'll put the plate in. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
yeah, I'm aware that the cultures around the world have a wide variety of things that probably are
So
harmful, honestly.
to me, that is objective harm. That's immoral, right? To them, it's not. So, and my point here is, if morals were objective, that would simply be morally wrong. But the fact that you understand the cultural difference, right? You understand that it's morally wrong to you, but then you understand it's morally right to them, hereby making morals in your mind subjective, or you wouldn't have brought up culture.
So like cultures can I would hold that cultures can be wrong about things. And just because we haven't found objective morality, like it takes like these ideas that I'm bringing up have taken thousands
Hmm.
of years for us to arrive at. Like humans
Yeah.
have been on this planet for 300,000 years, and we just
Hmm.
found about them like 50 years ago. Like this argument was only made 50 years ago for the first time. So like this is very new stuff in terms of the human race. So it's not surprising that different societies come up with different ideas. But I do think that within the fields of like philosophy, there are more and more arguments going to be made about things such as objective morals, because of philosophy is not a trivial idea that comes across easily to individuals. It takes a lot of time for a society to even like get to the point
Hmm.
where they could even talk about philosophy, let alone spend enough time to come across these ideas. Because philosophical ideas take some time to grow upon, and they have to be built
Yeah.
up. It's like microchips. It takes a certain level of dedication into sciences for us to make like a computer chip. Um, that
Hmm.
doesn't mean that like not all societies could ever come across like how to make a microchip. There might be some prerequisites that are needed, but it's clear to me that these things sometimes just take a long time. So
So
I don't really see that as an argument against objective morals. It's just because they haven't arrived at it doesn't mean that they're right, or that my argument's wrong. It just means that it takes a little bit more than just um, existing to come
mm,
across the argument.
but that's the thing in our one-on-one debate. I'm not really debating society. I'm debating you and your ideals.
Yeah.
And my direct challenge to your ideal in this case is, if you believe morals are objective, why do you have different morals for different cultures? That's it's double think inherently. Like, you get what I'm saying? Because in one side you're saying morals are objective, in the other side you're saying I can see how another culture will have different morals.
Well, I
That
would say that
means
the morals are wrong. That they're not objective. They're subjective at that point. My morals are built off of the logic of who we are as individuals. Like the very properties of humans are that we're purposeful
okay.
agents,
So
and
tell me
we're
why the Lip tribe. No disrespect. I don't know why they are morally wrong.
yeah. So what they're doing causes harm to individuals,
Hmm.
and that necessarily means that they're devaluing. Um, they're essentially saying that their rights to make
Hmm.
decisions on things are inherently better or above others' freedom and well-being, and
Hmm.
that just is
But
logically inconsistent with, if you follow the argument, that we must grant
mhm.
everybody the same freedom and well-being, the same rights to these.
And I would argue that's what they're doing, because if they didn't do that, that child, because they do it as a child, will then be ostracized in their own community. You get what I'm saying? So
Well,
on
if they
one
just stopped
hand,
the practice entirely, it would
but that like
reduce all the harm. I don't care about how long it takes a society to come in within the right view. If it's wrong and it's always wrong, it's just always wrong. It doesn't
but
matter.
but this is what
Under
I'm
my
saying. Why
view,
is it wrong?
yeah, because to reject the view would lead to either you have to abandon logic or devaluing
No,
actions.
I want to be very specific here.
Yeah.
Why is it morally wrong for that tribe that we're speaking of to
Hmm.
do their practice, however long they've been doing it, right?
Yeah.
For, like, why is it? Well, okay, let's do it like this. Why would it be bad for parents to do what their child would then benefit from in their specific society? Because there's harm both ways. There's physical harm to do the act, and then there's social harm to not do the act.
Well, I would
Correct?
say that a society
If I can lock that in with you real quick, am I correct that if they don't do it in their culture,
within the
the
society,
child?
yes.
Okay, so you are acknowledging that it is physical pain, physical harm to do it, correct?
Yeah.
And then you're acknowledging that
But
it
there's
is
social
social harm
implications. Yeah. So
if
what
they don't.
I would say is that the society is wrong for having these ideals in the first place. That a society that doesn't have these ideals and doesn't ostracize people who don't follow them is better off than a society that does these things.
Based off what?
This is just based off
Like
of
they're thriving. Like they're living. Like, okay, so what is the standard of living at that? You get what I'm saying? Because
well, we
in
both
order for
agree that
them,
it's causing harm and that this is not something
correct.
necessary. Like, there is no harm in if the society were to stop ostracizing people who didn't
Hmm.
follow this procedure. So if the society just stops following this, if
Hmm.
they just stop practicing it and accept that this is something that they used to do, and they did it for some sort of reason, and that's fine. Like, I'm not gonna like say that their society, like, just because they didn't come across this earlier doesn't mean that's necessarily wrong. It
All right.
does take, it takes time for cultures to understand these things, and even if cultures did wrong things,
Hmm.
I don't think that these people were lesser in any way. I think they did wrong things,
No,
but
no.
they're not lesser in
Hmm.
any way. Um,
So piercing is harm, tattooing is harm. Should we get rid of that?
Tattoos don't lead to, like, they cause some physical injury, but they allow individuals to express themselves, and it's for some people, it actually makes them
But I
feel
thought
really
we
good.
were based off of harm.
Yeah, so harm is based off of well-being and freedom. And an individual can take, at least some of their freedom and cause at least some
Well,
of their, reduce some of their well-being. It can be cases too where people have like terminal illnesses that I think that it is within, somebody's right to end their life if it reduces their suffering. If they make the, if they're within a cognizant ability to do so, like if they're all mentally there. But let's say they have a cancer that, there's no options of them being able to treat in any sort of way. Um,
okay, so this goes back to the cigarette argument. You're saying when it comes to piercings and tattoos, a person can harm themselves to a degree. And then you're saying when it comes to smoking and drinking, a person shouldn't be allowed to harm themselves. So now I think that's a conflict there as well. Because your
yeah,
standard was basically harm initially, and then you kind of switched it slightly to, what that harm is doing specifically.
yeah. So, like, there is there's acceptable levels of harm that, like, if it engages, like,
Okay, if I could jump in right there, who determines that?
yeah, it's just based off of like the overall outcome. Like, a tattoo causes a little bit of pain, but overall the actual risk is very low in terms of like causing long substantive harm. Especially if you restrict the individuals who are allowed to get tattoos to people who are within their right mind at that time. I think that things like being able to get tattoos when you're drunk should not be allowed. I think that's clearly crazy that people are not in their right minds, and this is going to leave a lasting mark on
Wait,
them.
okay, hold up. So you're saying if a grown adult decided to drink to the point of intoxication, they should be stopped from the next action of getting a tattoo, even though they had agency the whole time.
No, I think that whenever somebody is under the influence of alcohol, their agency is reduced. Their ability to act rationally is not all there, and that's clear because people make bad decisions whenever they're under the influence of alcohol. This is very clear by things such
Yeah,
as,
I agree.
like, yeah, when people get behind the the wheel of a vehicle thinking that they're fine to
Hmm.
drive. It's clear, like, any rational individual who's straight in their minds can say no, drunk driving is harmful. It's not safe. But people, when they're drunk, they don't always think about this rationally. So it's clear that we should at least put some reasonable restrictions on what people can do at that point. Um, when it comes to tattoos, there is people are getting the freedom to be able to express themselves, and any harm is like, you understand whenever you go to get a tattoo that these things are, like, we understand that they're going to be lifelong, and that if you do remove them, it is kind of a painful and long procedure.
Hmm.
A lot of people understand this, so this is making, like, people who can make complete informed decisions about these things, I think, have a little bit more, like, it's clear that they're operating within their own freedom and well-being. um
So getting back to the topic, and this is ultimately the conflict that I'm seeing.
mhm.
When it comes to other issues, you can dissect it and everything like that, and then you'll switch, harm and all these other things. But we didn't cover it as much because we were kind of, using stand-ins.
Yeah,
But when it comes to calling somebody their preferred gender, you think a different individual who doesn't want to should. So again, so basically, what you're just saying is your own philosophy and how you see the world, and then you're going to ignore others. Like maybe that's a strong word, but you're basically saying my way works, and like you get what I'm saying. And it's like that's not society. That's not human. That's not how people work.
The thing is that it's fine, at least to some degree, to cause harm to yourself if it's limited. It's not fine to
Hmm.
cause harm to others. That is the big thing. When you're causing harm to yourself, you're doing it to yourself. You're actually aware of like what you're doing, and you're saying that this
Hmm.
is fine. I am fine with this. When you're harming individual other people, unless if you've
Hmm.
gotten explicit consent that this is fine with them, it's not okay to do that. That's why we have things
But
such as
why should I
consent.
be forced to call X Y if I simply just don't want to? Like, don't interact with me. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like
Because it could cause harm
I'm
to
not gonna.
them. I think it's. I don't think you should go to jail for
But
it, but like, I think there is like a moral obligation that you should do this because you should
my
care
morals are
about.
different than yours.
Well, if morals are objective, they're not, and I've made an
I don't
argument
believe
for
they are.
why. Well, so then why is my argument not correct? It's
Okay,
I've
so I'll go with the. You made an argument. Okay, you cannot resolve why you yourself accept different morals from different places. So that
I
tells me
don't.
that it's. Yeah,
I
yes, you
don't
do,
accept any
because
other morals. I'm a moral objectivist. I have an argument for morals. If
you
you
accept that in the tribe we describe, that for them their morals are different than yours.
yeah,
You go
I
with
would say the
yours,
morals are
but you
wrong though.
recognize, yes, but what I'm saying is the simple act of recognizing different morals means you know that morals are subjective, or at least the very least morals are subjective for some people. And then you can then, like, you are a moral objectivist, other people aren't. So like that only applies to you. So I'm telling you how I see it, and then we just have to disagree. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
so
I'm not.
the the
Yeah.
the the symmetry breaker here is that people have their own opinions on morals. I can
Hmm.
say that they're wrong because mine are objective, not subjective. If I had subjective morals, the argument would be completely
Hmm.
fine. It's like if I say something is wrong, and they say something is right, nobody really has like I can't say that they're actually wrong. But if more like with a moral objective stance, you can say that this is objectively wrong because I'm not basing the morals of my opinion. I'm basing it off of logic and the facts of who we are as individuals.
But you're appealing to a higher thing to say that, and I'm saying to you, I reject the premise outright. To me, inherently, morals are a thing man-made and subjective. So, like, we have to do this simultaneously. We have to accept that for you, they're objective, and for me, they're subjective, and that's just how it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because
What
what you
you didn't
appeal
really
to doesn't.
like
Yeah,
object to any of the premises of the argument that I made that we are
I
we are do you accept that we are purposeful agents?
I do.
Do you
I
accept
do. I do think that a good bit of the portion of the population is literally NPCs, though.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we can be stupid, but we do things for a reason, and
Hmm.
we necessarily care about the reasons or what's needed to take these actions.
Most people, not all, is my answer. I don't. I genuinely believe there is a decent slice of the population that got nothing going on up top.
Well, I think that's more of like a situation of like cognitive dissonance than anything else.
Do you know what the Dunning Kruger effect is?
Yeah, and the Dunning-Kruger effect is kind of funny because it's like very well misconstrued about what it generally is speaking. The Dunning-Kruger effect itself has a Dunning-Kruger effect. It really
Mhm.
is that people who don't know about topics as well tend to overestimate their knowledge than people who know more about
Correct.
it. That is the
And
true
my point
thing.
is,
And the
I
people who have the
believe that.
largest gap are the people who often have the least amount of knowledge on it.
Correct. And not trying to pretend like I'm some super smart guy, but I do believe that there is, and I think this is human. Like, you can prove this. There is certain segment of humanity who is simply not smart enough to realize how not smart they are. Like, again, this is objective. This is why the whole study was done. And those people are also in America. So I do believe there is a slice of Americans that are literally drones.
Yeah, so like I agree that there's like also people who have like mental disabilities who don't have the physical ability, unfortunately, to make fully aware cognizant decisions, and these people need to be Like there need to be systems in order to protect these individuals from making stupid decisions, essentially.
I agree,
Um,
but there's a difference between somebody who is not smart enough to do X versus somebody who is mentally challenged. You and I would agree with somebody with a disability.
yeah, like I have autism. That doesn't mean I can't make an informed decision. Like there's clearly some things where like I've like autistic people struggle with very specific things, like when it comes down to
Hmm.
um like black and white thinking is like an area where we struggle a lot
Hmm.
sometimes. Is that we sometimes like to see things as more true as dichotomies that are absolute instead of like a spectrum of things,
Okay, let me.
or take
Hmm.
other people's opinions in. But the thing is that like when somebody's like misinformed on a topic, or they're just following with what their instincts say, they're still doing things for a reason. That doesn't mean that they have good reasons to do this. They are still acting within like a logical
Yes.
framework of doing things for
Well,
reasons.
not necessarily logical because I'll use the court system as an example of what I mean. Why do we have the ability to rule somebody not competent to still stand trial?
Yeah, it's because they have some sort of issue where they cannot actually understand the full
Mhm.
consequences of
Yes.
the actions that they're taking,
Now, some. Mhm.
or some other it could be that they some other factors can
Now,
apply
as a
there.
provable fact, some people who have been ruled not competent simply were ruled not competent because they were not smart enough humans to get it. There's been another of people who were ruled not competent because they literally couldn't read the information presented to them.
Well, yeah,
And
you have to
that
have a basic understanding of these things in order to make an
mhm,
informed decision. It's far more than just having um
mhm,
your own agency. It's this idea that we can make informed decisions about our actions,
mhm,
especially when these actions, like when you're on trial for something. This could be something that's potentially lifelong.
mhm,
These are very big stakes, and if I don't feel that somebody who is fully able to understand the consequences of these actions should really have a full choice of what we should do. And like when people like say that they want to represent themselves, I often am like, well, this is a foolish decision, because it's
mhm,
very clear that when you look at the statistics of people who choose to represent themselves, they often have some like conflicts of interest and are sometimes not able to properly detach themselves from the situation, where a lawyer can
mhm.
do that, or even just somebody else who's representing them could do that.
So yeah, so my overall point here is there is a slice of Americans slash humanity that simply are not competent. They just they don't have, like I said, they don't have a diagnosable issue. They simply are not competent human beings. Just how it goes for a portion of the yeah. That's just the truth.
Well, I would say
Or you do
that
you disagree?
being a purposeful agent is like something that we are, and if you fail to meet the requirements of doing things for a reason, then there should be, there's clearly something that's abnormal at the very least and should be looked at.
Hmm.
And I think that for a lot of people, there's a lot of undiagnosed traits. Like I lived with my like as my life for 23 years without knowing I was autistic. It took 23 years, even with a mother who works with autistic children daily, for me to get diagnosed. But that doesn't mean that we don't do things for reasons and that we don't care about the actions that we take. If people aren't able to comprehend why they do things and care about this, then I think that they're simply wrong in this case, and either need to be protected, um and or they're just not understanding it. I think education has a long, like, a lot of this some of this stuff can be solved with education, but a lot of it can't as well.
Yeah, because like some of it is just built into the species. Like it's just you're gonna get every now and again you're gonna get a super smart person, and then every now and again you're gonna get a super not smart person. Like it just is the roll of the dice. But to the main point, um, I believe morals are subjective. I believe they are. We try to kind of like back them up through laws and such to a degree. And I think that we need to afford both sides of the argument and then let individuals choose where they want to be. I think people like myself who do not wish to affirm should, just go ahead and do that. I believe people like yourself who support, go ahead and do that. And then I think that when the two sides meet, if they can't have a cordial conversation like us, I think the only thing that should happen at that point is, you just kind of accept it. Like, you know what I mean? You're not going to match with everybody that you meet.
Yeah, so the moral argument, the reason why that my morals are very important here is because if you disagree with my morals, you're necessarily saying that, your freedom and well-being is somehow either above or more important than, or yeah, either you're just more important than others, or that you don't care about others, like freedom and well-being.
I think that's an unfair assessment. You know
Well,
what I mean? Because
that's
it's
what
kind of,
happens when you reject the argument I presented. Basically, is that you have to either say that or abandon logic, or you're reduced to saying that
but
we do
again,
things for no reasons, and then that's what everybody does. And like,
but
yeah,
you're
I agree
trying
that.
to get me into your like for me, like again, you can't change this. Morals are subjective, and since that is the case with me, I understand your argument. I listened to it. I don't agree. I
Well, it's a
gave you my
deductive
points.
argument as well. So like,
Mm,
it's the form of the argument that it takes is that I don't know if you're very familiar with deductive and inductive arguments. Deductive
mhm,
arguments are starting with a wide set of premises, and it's
mhm.
literally taking like it's going from a large scope to a smaller scope to get like actual answers. And if a deductive argument is logically sound and the premises are accepted, the conclusion necessarily follows.
And the
And that's what I
premises are
presented.
accepted. They're not accepted. And the premises are accepted. It's
So
two of
what
us
premise
talking.
did you
I
reject out
don't
of my argument?
accept. I do not accept morals are objective, objective, and that is the ceiling of what you're saying.
Well, that's a
And I do not
conclusion.
accept and I do not accept your theory on harm. I don't believe you're consistent with your theory on harm. I think you have a way that you would want the world to work, and I think that that's ultimately what you're saying. And I think that you're using the moral objectivity as kind of like if you can't get past this, so therefore you're that. And I'm disagreeing with that. So in your statement just now, if the premise is accepted, I reject it.
Hmm. None of the premises were that objectives are moral or morals are objective. This is a conclusion of the argument. It's what necessarily follows.
Okay, so hit me with it, your premise one by one, or however
Yeah.
you wish, and then
So the first one is going to be that we are purposeful agents.
agreed for the most part, but not total.
I mean, there's going to be people who fall outside of this, like people who have disabilities and stuff. Like
Hmm.
they still are necessarily purposeful. Like they do things at least for subconscious reasons, but
Hmm.
like they don't have a full understanding of what they're doing, and that's the reason why
Yes,
we would need to protect them. Um,
and this is where we shift a little bit because outside of that class, I genuinely believe a good portion of the population is NPCs, as I explained. So that's kind of why my answer is what it was.
yeah. So the second premise would be that we need our freedom and well being in order to act.
Correct. I agree.
That one's pretty easy to accept. Um,
Hmm.
the third one is that we have a right to freedom and well being for ourselves.
Correct. I agree.
And then the last one is that we must grant the same rights to all other individuals in order to be logically consistent.
I agree.
And actually, that one's actually kind of it's not even like a premise. That is actually something that you could deduce. And so the
Hmm.
conclusion is that we all have the rights to freedom and well being, and that we cannot like infringe upon them.
Hmm.
And if
And,
you were to reject any of the premises, it essentially ends up kind of collapsing any sort of reason to listen to somebody too. So
but I agree with all of them. But that's my point. The freedom for the individual. I am saying in a scenario where you have somebody who wants to be affirmed versus somebody who doesn't want to affirm, I'm saying to both, do you. You're saying to one, do you, and the other one, you're saying do something else. So I am more about freedom than you are based off your own premise,
Because I care
sis.
about well-being more than freedom
But that was
sometimes.
not in your, but you
Well,
didn't
well,
include that in your
you
premises.
agree that we all have the rights to freedom and well-being, and therefore we
Yes.
cannot, like, I cannot harm you. I don't have the right to
But
just harm you without you saying it's
telling
okay for
somebody,
me to.
but you're inserting harm there in your argument. My argument is telling somebody to say what anything is taking away their freedom.
Yeah, so there's
So we're not
necessarily,
arguing the same point.
we do take away freedom. In a lot of cases, you'd be surprised. Like, we don't allow people to just go out and punch people in the
Hmm.
faces because that
I
that
know.
hurts people.
Screaming
This is
fire. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I know. I'm with you.
There are certain restrictions on freedom that are necessary for it to have a functional society, and these
And
are,
I don't believe affirming is one of them.
well, I would just say that the science is very clear that affirmation leads to better mental health outcomes, and if you're going to say that we cannot harm people, then this is something that would lead to harm if you were to say that, not affirm individuals. And I think it's a
I,
very minor ask. It's a very, very minor infringement on somebody's freedom.
I think it's not as minor as you think to some people. This is major to me. That's why I refuse so much.
Yeah, so I
And
would
like
say
you could
that
like, yes.
this is something that's accepted by the medical community as on a widespread, and it's not
Hmm.
like it's just me saying this. This is something that's very well understood that these things cause harm, and that this is not something that's good for society. Um,
But this is the thing. I would say in our society, we allow cigarettes, we allow alcohol, we limit it. And for me, this does not reach the level of something to disallow, is what I'm saying. So I have a different outlook on the levels of harm society should be at than you. So we agree on harm itself. We are just standing at different points on the scale.
well, yeah, but like the argument straight up just says that harm is unacceptable unless if it's like clearly there's exceptions for like individuals who say, yeah, this is fine for
Hmm.
you me to harm you. Like when you go into a boxing ring and stuff like that. It's clearly, there's at least an imaginary social construct that says, hey, we're allowing each other to beat each other up and cause physical harm to individuals, because this is something we want to do. It's different if you were to punch. The difference is that, if you just go punch somebody on the street, they don't want that. That's going to obviously harm them, and they don't necessarily. It might be the case that they're okay with it, but it's just that we can't tell without asking them. So you
But
need
this
to
is,
ask them
mhm.
at the very first. So like I guess you can misgender individuals, but you have to ask them if it's okay for you to do that in this
Why?
situation, because you don't have the consent of the other individual.
I don't need it. Where is consent required to call like label somebody anything in objective right in here?
Yeah, so you need consent in order to harm individuals without being wrong to do that.
Again, where is the legal obligation to do like you're saying these
It's a
things? And
moral
again,
obligation, not a legal obligation.
I don't believe in it that it's a moral obligation. Morals are subjective to me, and this is not. This doesn't count as it. Like it's immoral for you to tell me to call somebody something, but for you it's not.
Yeah,
So me
because
telling you that
the
that is
difference
moral
is
to
that
me doesn't.
I have scientific backings and saying, hey, this causes harm. That is the
Okay.
difference.
Okay, so ultimately when push comes to shove, the difference between you and I is you would get rid of cigarettes and I would say society has spoken. So I would basically, in my opinion, I then would say I'm going with as much freedom for as much people as possible because I understand you're not going to please everybody.
That's
Once
actually
you
the
draw that
argument here
line,
too.
yeah, once you draw that line, uh, there's going to be people on that other side of the line, and that's it. There's nothing you can debate all you want. Like I said, the pro AV versus pro life. There's no resolution. One side just wants to win. This is the same thing, just kind of in gentler words.
Well, yeah, but I'm also saying that they're just wrong if they disagree with me. That's the great thing about this argument. I have the
Hmm.
right to say, you're wrong, because I have logic. Like, I've made a deductive argument. This is what
No,
necessarily
no,
follows.
it's not like okay, like you're basically going off of research that not affirming somebody harms them, and you're
This
ignoring the
is
individual. Yes,
yeah,
I
this
didn't deny
is
it.
yeah. So
I
you
didn't
agree
deny it. This
with?
is
Do you
not a.
agree with the science? What the science
I am
says?
not aware of it. I'm not aware of this specific science, but I am not in a position to deny it, so I was
Okay.
accepting it for the argument.
Yeah, it is very well accepted that this is something that can cause harm, especially if it's within
Hmm.
um like within a family
Well,
setting. Like I
there's also research that gender affirming care harms individuals as well. There's also like a good slice of medical research that says everything you're talking about is bad for people.
yeah, so within
So,
like social acceptation, this is very
mhm.
different than like a medical like if you're taking
No, I'm talking about
a
medical.
yeah, so medical is a different
Hmm.
conversation entirely, I would say, versus social. In
Hmm.
terms of that there's very clear evidence that at least for a lot of these things too, that like if somebody wants to have like bottom surgery and they're of age and mental capacity to do so, I think that there's no reason to say that this is wrong. Especially when any potential harm is only happening to themselves. They've made this implicit decision after being well informed about this, and this is something that they're right
But
with.
this is the thing.
Jay,
We live in a world where enough there's enough research to basically back up anything you wish to
n-
say. So if I came up with a ton of research saying uh, gender affirming care surgery harms people, why would
listen.
that? Okay,
There is a
you,
difference
okay,
between
okay.
there's a difference
It's
between
not gonna go
research
how you want.
there's a difference for the third time between research that
Hmm.
is done with a good methodology that has good accounting for variables, that has a good test group size and those sorts of things. So if you want to bring up science that says that gender affirming care is harmful, you can bring up sources and then we can dissect whether or not those sources actually use all of these things in a good way, because we actually also have evidence that a lot of the research into gender affirming care that's been done, especially back in like your 70s 80s era, um, is a it's funded by people who are against the trans community, and b it was done with like methodology and group sizes, things like that aren't affirming of like actual science. We don't even know how some of these quote unquote research papers were published within science because they have such awful methodology. So again, if you want to bring up a source, we can show you the difference. We can parse through whether that source is actually a good source to be looking at or not.
Uh, 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 One of the things that's difficult to have this conversation is you get ranted at a lot when you're genuinely trying to have a back and forth and a dialogue. And a lot of times people say things to you that you already know, and then you got to just sit there and listen. And, and then you wait to just reject it. I was not bringing up a source specifically, I was bringing up the idea of a source. And now you did address
And
it.
I'm asking
Yeah.
you to bring up a source.
Yeah, you've just been making negligent
I
claims
was
at that
never,
point. This
I
is
was,
just a negligent
again,
claim.
I
I
was
have
asking
no.
a question.
So an argument has two things. It has a claim
I didn't.
and a
Oh, hold
reason to
up.
believe
I
that
didn't
claim.
say. Hold up. You're changing.
Yeah, so
It's
you
not your live, it's the
no,
host.
you can
Remember
don't mute
that.
them. They've been respectful so far. But the big thing is that you
If I get
have
muted again, I'm leaving. So just throwing that out there.
do you understand that an argument has two parts? It's got a claim and a reason to believe the claim. You presented the
It,
claim that we
I,
could
I
have this information, but do you have any reason to believe that this actually exists?
did my question finish, or was I cut off?
You can go ahead. You might have been cut off there.
The person joined and cut me off. I never got to finish my question because it was assumed I was saying I have research, blah blah blah. That is not my question. Again, I don't want to be disrespectful. The person answered the question ultimately, but it was as simple: what if a person comes up with this research, and then it was answered? So why does it have to be something bigger than me simply asking a question? Like, why do I have to get accused of these things and defend myself? We've had a whole cordial back and forth for 30 minutes now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how is that
Yeah,
fair to me?
yeah. So
How did I cut you off? Like, how was I disrespectful?
I
Well,
was
no.
speaking
I,
when you
I
cut.
I did, see, now you're cutting me off. I did cut you off and I apologize for that. But what have I done that's been like disrespectful or like attacking you in any way and hasn't been relevant? Like, I did answer your question. So, and I'm asking for sources so that we stay on topic and have a conversation that's productive.
Cutting me off and muting me, if it was, I don't know who it was, but yes, you cutting me off, I found to be very rude.
And I apologized.
And I also apologize for cutting you off. But again, to my point, I was simply asking a what if question. I do not have research, so I am not making that claim.
I never claimed you did or said you did, even, just to be clear. I
All
never
right,
made
so
that claim.
we are now on the same page, I believe.
So do we have any reasons to think that your this hypothetical is the case?
No, I mean, there are people that will claim that they have research and then will bring research. But again, my question was a simple what if, and it was answered. So, like,
So
you
if
know,
that was the
again,
case,
I'm sorry.
if that was the case, we might have
Okay.
that this is something that we need to look at. Like, I agree that if there is case that shows that these things are harmful, and like I would agree that there are some cases where if you just blindly go into surgery and like just let anybody do it, it's clearly going to cause issues where you have like people who are drunk that could get tattoos. I think that's an issue because like people aren't making informed decisions here. So like there's clearly reasons why we would want to put up at least some like reasonable roadblocks, which would like limit who's provide access to information to individuals so that they have to make an informed decision. I think if you're going to do anything such as like a surgery, you need to be aware of the information about what could happen. And
I need. Sorry,
this
once you're
isn't an
done.
overnight thing that you should just like. I think a lot of these things too are like people who do go through surgery tend to have a lot of time that they've spent looking at this and saying, hey, what actually happens with this surgery? And they are well informed by the doctor and surgeons who have, I'm pretty sure they have legal obligations to let individuals know about the side effects.
Yeah, are you done? Sorry.
I'm done.
Okay. I need to address something that you said in the comments, Jay. Well, two things. First of all, are you having a discussion with the comments or are you having a discussion with us?
I'm having a discussion with, I guess the word would be us, but y'all, I guess, from my point of view.
Okay, so maybe if we like focus on the discussion we're having, that would be good. But since you already interacted with the comments, you said this is why I will never be on your side. What is this? Just so that I'm clear.
One, you don't control my actions, so I hear the request, it's rejected, and the milk bottles, basically the harassment, is why.
Oh, that's harassment now. Okay, good.
Yes.
So it isn't actually about science or whether or not we're valid or whether or not it's good for us to get the care that we need to you. It's about whether or not somebody thinks you're crying.
If that's what you want to believe.
I'm asking you.
And my answer is if that's what you want to believe.
Well, you just said, this is why I will never be on your side. And you said this was the baby bottles in the comments.
So we can do the thing where you accept that that's the only answer I'm going to give you, or you can just keep rephrasing your question. Your choice.
I'm trying to get an answer from you here.
I know. And again, I already told you, you don't control me. And I'm telling you, the only answer for me to this question you're going to get is if that's what you want to believe. All you can do is accept it.
Well, I'm just using logic here. So I asked you specifically, what does this mean in that comment? And you said this was the baby bottles. That logically means, like, if A is B and B is C, then A is C, okay? That logically means that the baby bottles are why you will never be on our side. That means if that's the case, that means that you're not going to listen to anything that we have to say at that point. It just means you've made up your mind already about what side you're on and you're not going to listen. So that's why I'm asking you this, because I want to know if you actually want to learn and if you're actually open to listening to science or if you just don't want to learn because somebody put baby bottles in the comments.
If that's what you want to believe.
I mean, I don't know if I want to entertain this. He can't even answer a simple question at this point.
Yeah, I feel like I almost feel like it's almost wrong to continue this argument because like we're borderline like abusing people at this point. This is I'm sorry, but this is a beatdown for you. It's very
Yeah.
clear to me that if you've been logically tracking this argument, you've been beaten quite hard, and like I don't know if you're in the right mind to like be able to accept this. Like I feel like
Beaten, what do
this is
you,
an infringement upon your well-being, and I should stop this conversation.
well, I'll tell you what, I don't feel harmed at all. So with my own autonomy, I'm good.
Well, yeah,
You
but
can do what you
I'm
want, but
unsure of if you have the mental capacity to make that
uh
decision at this point.
what I
So I
got you.
think I
What do
am
you
going
mean
to continue on,
by
and I hope you
beaten?
have a great rest of your day.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he joined,
Ow.
I think it was right before I left to go on errands and was here the entire time. So I don't know what happened for like 90+%
Oh,
of that.
this
But
was the
ever since
entire
I've been
argument.
here,
This was the
that's
entire
just like,
argument. Oh my fucking god. Oh,
what?
that was the entire argument. This entire you get the this
That's
was
just it. That
yeah this
stats say that people who are trans like sometimes detransition
oh
or
no
aren't
the
happy
argument
with
was that
it
like
or
we as societies have allowed these harms, and like I have a freedom to say what I want to and stuff. It's like this is
oh,
silly.
so it was just I can say whatever I want. Okay, well you can say whatever you want, but we're gonna judge you based on what you say, and if you know it's gonna harm people and you say it anyways, I'm gonna judge you for that.
I'm sad Edna was here. Edna was in
Edna
the
Mode, the actual Edna
yeah
Mode
yeah.
was
If you look at
here.
Discord, no, she left or he left. He
Yeah.
left. Sorry, I misgendered them because they identify as they act as a female because that is a female. So I don't yeah. Yeah, the one with 40,000 followers nearly was sitting there for like 20 minutes listening to this, and I'm sorry, Edna. I didn't want to. Even you don't deserve that. What does your judgment matter to me? You're wrong. Like if I have objective morals, you're just wrong. It's as simple as that.
And you
That's
also
a
don't
great thing.
you don't need to think it matters. That's just absurd because you're not thinking that like logic matters at that point. It's not about my opinion, it's about logic's opinion, honestly, at that point.
So then what? Yeah, you're just wrong. This is just an auto lose thing to ask.
Mhm.
If you're wrong, so what? You're just wrong. Like this is me winning the argument at that point. This is no, I don't think men can be women. I think males can be women. That's the difference. Logic doesn't exist here. Logic is transcendental. It always exists. It's existing everywhere at once. It is non-spatial. It is everywhere. Well, actually, no, it's not anywhere because it exists outside of space. So, yeah, I guess logic doesn't exist here. You can win something here. Yeah, in a discussion, you can. You've been proven wrong. I would say
Yeah,
that's
you can be
winning.
right or wrong, for sure.
What's the
And winning
prize?
and
Agreeing with
losing
yourself?
relating to whether you're right or wrong, yeah, that can happen. The
What's
prize is having knowledge.
proven wrong to who?
The
You.
prize is respecting and affirming trans people so that we don't harm anyone.
And why do they? Oh.
The prize is wanting healthcare for everybody. The prize is understanding how important these things are for the entire population of people. The prize is being more educated than you. That feels good to me. That's the prize. I mean, I'd love
Hey,
for you to be just as educated as me.
they
I would
seem
love for
pretty
that.
smart,
That's
to
part
be
of what this is
fair.
about. But
They seem pretty well educated on a lot of things, to be fair. I just.
well, yeah, in certain areas, sure. But like, what kind of an argument is like?
Yeah,
Wait,
I
what
just
was
don't
it?
think that you're very
High
well
school
educated
argument?
in philosophy. And so I would
Yeah,
read up on
exactly.
philosophy a little bit, and like that's totally fine. Like I wasn't. If you were to ask me 2 years ago about philosophical things, I would get my ass beat real hard. It would be a
Oh yeah,
beatdown. It would be, and Colt, you too. You probably would have.
yeah, 100%. As of a couple of years ago, 100%. It just comes to being smart in the areas that matter for not harming people. If you care about like not harming other people, then that's why you would look into the things that are relevant to this conversation. So when I say the prize is being more educated than you, I'm talking specifically on this topic. I'm more educated than you on this topic, and that helps me to not harm other people. I mean, being trans myself also doesn't hurt anything. But
I care on the scale of harm I
yeah.
decide. Okay, on to the next. On to Kimberlyn. I don't want to
Alright.
get drowned into this rabbit hole. Loading.
I was about to say, if they
scroll
load.
off. Yeah, I know that you can scroll off, and it's not always that these. Yeah, rip. Oh well. Oh, they requested again. I figured I'd wait. Hi, Kimberlyn. Can I get your age and pronouns, please?
Hi, I'm 26 and she, her.
And do you disagree with the prompt?
Yes.
So why shouldn't I support transgender individuals and affirmative care?
I would agree with the prompt if it was adult transgender people. I don't support gender affirming care for children.
So,
Sorry, just so we're on the same
under the age of
page.
like 13. Like once you become a teenager, that I can understand. But if you're 12 and under, I don't believe that it's appropriate.
Oh, I don't
Just so
think that
we're
we
on the same
necessarily fully
page.
disagree then, even.
What do you
I'm
think?
sorry.
So I'm sorry. It's Keaton's live. I shouldn't. Let me know when
No,
you're
go
done,
ahead, Cole. I
Keaton.
interrupted
just
you.
trying
This
to
was
get
my
on the
bad.
same page is all.
I was speaking over you, Cole, here. This was my bad. Go ahead.
Okay. My question for you, Kimberlyn, is what do you think that gender affirming care is? Just so that we're all on the same page.
It encompasses a lot of things, and I know that it will look different for all people as far as what is included and also the pace at which it goes. So I know there's hormones, certain puberty blockers, eventually surgeries. I know there's a very rigorous amount of care that you have to receive, documentation over a certain period of time. I believe somebody told me in another live it's like 6 months to a year before they put you on any kind of medication. And then also just literally like counseling sessions, seeking a potential gender dysphoria diagnosis, but I've been told by other people that that's not necessarily required in order for somebody
Correct.
to receive gender affirming care. So I know quite a bit about it. I obviously have not gone through this process, so I can't speak on it firsthand. But that's just the information that I've gathered from people that have gone through that experience or are more educated on the topic than myself.
Yeah, so just to clarify, at least for what we're talking about, the only things that I would add to that are things such as that would be included in social transitions. Like you said, and you were correct, whoever told you that was 100% correct. You can be trans without having gender dysphoria. Some trans people don't even care how they express. Maybe a trans man can teacup. I don't know if she's still listening or not.
I'm so sorry. I'm a teacher, so I'm on here and I'm also lesson planning. I'm just taking a picture of my computer screen really quickly for something. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
it's
that's
okay.
okay. I just wanted to make sure you were still like paying attention to some extent. So it can be like that, but for social transition, it would be things like different hairstyles and haircuts, different clothing, different pronouns, and different names. Obviously, all of those things are fully reversible and are a very important part of gender exploration, which kids we think should be able to go through, because gender exploration doesn't hurt anybody. It just helps you be fully informed about who you are. If you have if you're questioning and then you go through some gender exploration and you realize, hey, I'm cis, I'm most comfortable with the things that align with my sex assigned at birth, that's cool too. So when we're talking under the age of Tanner stage 2 of puberty, which is different for everybody, but it's around that 11, 12 years old, what about that line of what you're talking about. If we want to use puberty blockers for patients, for example, a patient who is socially transitioned over the course of years and has been in therapy for that period of time, we don't want them going through the wrong puberty, the puberty that doesn't align with who they are gender-wise. So we would want to put them on puberty blockers to make sure that that is who they are. Again, more therapy and more doctor's appointments and all of that, and then they would be allowed on puberty blockers. But if we're talking about puberty blockers, they're
Whoa, what
not
was that?
helpful.
Oh,
Just a
it's
host
TikTok
alarm, I
Live
think.
Studio. So I'm on a desktop hosting it. If it says, "Oh, you're inactive for too long," and it maybe do like a
Oh.
Yeah.
no. So
So yeah, so
I was like, somebody's getting a phone call.
no,
yeah,
that's
so
just TikTok Live Studio. Thanks Live Studio for doing that.
I'm sorry.
yes, they're children, but it's not like they're getting even puberty blockers are something that it's a pause on puberty. It doesn't block puberty as a whole, and B, it gives more time for the child to explore their gender and be certain with all of their doctors before they choose which puberty is appropriate for that child. And then HRT, like for example, trans men, if they go through a female puberty instead of a male puberty, they're going to grow breasts. And if they grow breasts, they could possibly need top surgery later in their life, which is around anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000. I mean, it can be more, it can be less even, but 10 is really on the low side of thing.
Can I say
So
something
these
about that
people,
actually?
can I finish?
Yeah.
Thanks. These people are going through this gender dysphoria all the way through their puberty as soon as they start developing breasts, all the way up until whenever they get surgery. And these surgeries typically aren't covered by insurance now, at least in the US. So it can end up causing a lot of harm to people that is only fixed by surgery. When if they were on puberty blockers and then were on HRT growing up, which puberty blockers around 11 or 12, 13 or 14 is typically when you're going to see 14 probably at the latest because you want the child to start going through puberty at a typical time. You might see some kids being on HRT at that point. You said 12 and under, so I'm kind of only arguing for like puberty blockers here and social affirmation, social transition. But it's really not much under the ages that you're uncomfortable with it, if that makes sense. It's just social transition therapy, maybe puberty blockers, and then anything over that age of 12 is where you're going to see things like HRT. And then over the age of 18, typically you're going to see puberty blockers being used as well. Or I'm not sorry, puberty blockers. So you'll see HRT after that age of like 12, so like 13, 14 onward, you'll see HRT and then potential surgeries is what I meant to say. So I don't know if that like helps clear things up, but yeah, thanks for also answering initially so that I knew kind of what to talk about and what you already knew.
Yeah, for sure. So my whole thing is, if children at any age need to receive medical intervention, why can't they receive medical intervention after they become a teenager or past the age of 18? Like, why can't we allow them to have their body go through the natural process that it was designed for and then have gender affirming care? Because it brings up the problem of detransitioners. And then also, I started puberty at 7, so I was in between like second and third grade, which would be considered precocious because the typical age for a girl is 9. It's not easy and it's not comfortable, but it happened. And when I was in high school, I wanted to get a breast reduction and they wouldn't let me because I wasn't old enough yet. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm a biological female that wants to go through this procedure that would save me comfort, that would allow me to be more, not just like accepted into society, but less eyes on me, in like the girls' locker room at PE and stuff. And they told me no. Yet there's a biological male that's allowed to receive that, or a biological female that's allowed to receive. Like, It doesn't make sense to me why it would impact children under the age of 13. Why can't we allow kids to grow into their body naturally, and then as late teenagers, they can begin to start making those decisions?
I'm going to repeat a couple of things that I said because I don't think you quite heard them. One, you can't use puberty blockers to pause puberty if you're done with puberty.
I don't
So
think
the
we should have puberty blockers
so the only appropriate ages for puberty blockers would be teen or stage 2 or younger if you have precocious puberty. There are people that have precocious puberty before you or around you that did have access to puberty blockers to help them. You now need surgery to help your comfort, the same as a trans man would need surgery to help his comfort and his quality of life. Because, and by the way, I'm not saying you should not have access to that. I very much so think that you should have had access to that. That being said, trans people should too. We're not taking anything away from you as long as you have access to it as well as us. It's really important to me that you understand that we're advocating for every person, cis or trans, to have access to this kind of care. And then the second thing I'm
I can
gonna say,
understand that.
the second thing I'm gonna touch on is that the reason that it causes harm to go through a puberty that doesn't align with who you are is because if you don't get access to puberty blockers and HRT growing up as a trans man, for example, you would develop breasts, and that's extremely dysphoric, and then it costs tens of thousands of dollars later on in our lives in order to be able to get those things. Often it's not covered by surgery, and legally it's being attacked more and more every day, especially in America under the Trump administration right now. So it's really important to take into account that it may have been a no for you, and you could have pushed and gotten it maybe, but it is 10 times harder at least for trans people to get access to these procedures. It's very uncommon under the age of 18, extremely. It's very rare circumstances where either a child's life is in danger, or let's say they're 17 and they're going to college, and it would be bad for them to be initially recovering from top surgery in college. They might get it when they're 17, when they're 18, before they go to college, so that they can continue living their lives with a certain level of functionality, having recovered over the summer. So again, that's why it's harmful when we don't use puberty blockers and HRT when it's necessary, and that's why it costs more later as well, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, all that good stuff.
Is there any research that you can show me that says that hormones and puberty blockers are irreversible and not permanent?
So puberty blockers are not entirely there are some things that you might have a very slight amount of a couple of percentage points difference in some areas. From my understanding,
Like what?
So your bone density is going to lag behind clearly. Things that are going to happen during puberty are going to lag behind clearly if you entered puberty later. This is just expected if this would be almost the same as if somebody were to enter puberty just late.
And to clarify, they will develop an equal bone density. It just takes a little longer because, again, puberty was delayed. It wasn't blocked. It was just delayed. So they will catch up with their counterparts, even if they don't go on HRT after puberty blockers and they go through the puberty that aligns with their sex assigned at birth.
They might need some. I'm not super familiar about this, but they might be put on just general hormones for the gender that they want to be, regardless, just to help this out.
Doctors do treat these kinds of known issues while children are getting puberty blockers and HRT for sure.
Hormones do have more lasting effects in terms of especially if you have vocal changes are going to be lasting. If you grow breasts due to estrogen.
Only for trans men, or trans mask folks.
Oh,
because if you're on estrogen, your voice isn't going to raise, but if you're on testosterone, it will lower.
Well, it's really more just testosterone does this to, testosterone's kind of it causes the voice to deepen. So if your voice deepens, it's going to stay that low. If you go
Yeah,
back,
exactly. And that's also true. And this is another great point. Trans women who go through a male puberty, who are dysphoric about their voice sometimes, and we know somebody actually, Birdie, if you know who I'm talking about, so who had to get vocal surgery later on in life, which she wouldn't have had to get if she would have had access to puberty blockers and HRT growing up.
yeah. So the big thing about puberty blockers is that if anything, I don't know how long puberty blockers really should be used for. They shouldn't be used for 5-6 years. Like, that's very clear.
It's generally 3 years or less.
Yeah, that's
What age do you support them being like given to kids? Like, what age would be acceptable in your opinion?
well,
Tanner stage 2 of puberty, it differs depending on the patient.
There actually might
Like,
be
because I
reasons
teach
to.
kindergarten, so like if I had a trans kid in my class
Well,
at 5 years old,
Yeah,
They're
puberty
not going
blockers
through
wouldn't do
puberty.
anything. They're not
not going
stopping
through
anything.
puberty
It's
yet.
like, yeah, you're not.
but
Like,
I can't. First of all, I feel like this has been a really good conversation, but I can't hear both of you talking at the same time.
that's our bad. We're both autistic and like to hop in. That's.
Oh my god, no! Please don't. Oh my gosh.
But yeah.
Oh my god.
It's yeah. So people at the age of 5 aren't going to be on puberty blockers, and definitely not gender affirming hormones.
Unless they have
to
precocious
transition.
puberty,
Yeah,
to be
so
clear. Sorry
That's what I was
for
saying.
interrupting
Like,
again.
because I was in second grade.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, we have a friend who's actually in the comments right now. I won't say who unless they're okay with it. Who shares a story pretty openly about developing breasts starting at the age of 2, and that's wild. He should have been on puberty blockers because they happen to be trans too, and he was for as long as he was allowed. There he is. I'll let him speak for himself.
Yeah, I started developing a chest at the age of 2. My mom immediately tried to get me to doctors. They stopped it for a little bit. For some reason, took me off of the stuff. And then I started growing a chest at 5, and the doctors wouldn't do anything about it. And I had a period around 8 years old.
yeah.
Never
I got
gonna
to
be
beat girl. Mine was at 7, so.
Yeah.
And I didn't receive any medical intervention either. And I'm not saying that I speak for all women, but right. I mean, it was definitely very uncomfortable. However, I'm very thankful that I wasn't allowed to receive those kinds of care and procedures because, like, it's just not natural. Like,
and I'm glad that you are more thankful for yourself. I am a trans man, by the way. Hated it. I have had gender dysphoria for a long time because, again, I started growing chest at 5. I have had gender dysphoria about my body for so long, and I have had complications in the bottom area because that's the main area I've had gender dysphoria with. And some people say, oh, you'll grow out of it once you start at puberty, you'll grow out of it once you get older. I am 19 turning 20 this year. I have not grown out of it. My gender dysphoria has gotten worse. As you can hear, my voice is as feminine as can be. I don't, and mentally, I'm not okay.
But I feel like
precocious puberty for me hurt me a lot. And I'm not saying that's what made me trans or anything like that. I'm just saying, for me at least, I fucking hate that I went through puberty so fucking early.
Yeah,
Also,
I mean,
Tom, are you done? I just want to make sure.
Yes, I am.
Okay, side note, all medications are quote unquote unnatural. So, like, is my seizure medication not something I should have because it's unnatural? What about my pain medication that helps with my nerve damage? Like, I'm really wondering what your definition of natural and unnatural relative to what you I am not tripping. I don't know if Stowe can play it back or not right now, but you definitely said it was an unnatural thing to, like, be on puberty blockers and go through HRT as a child. So my point is just that all medications are unnatural, quote unquote. So, like, you'd have to apply it to literally every medication, not just HRT.
Well, I don't believe that people that need mental health medication at a certain age are bad. I'm saying, well, first I wanted to respond to Pomegranate about what he had to say. Because like it's interesting that we've had a very similar experience because I was wearing a C-cup bra in first grade. Like I very much went through puberty extremely early, and I'm thankful that I was able to develop and then decide as an adult what to do with my own body once I was able to be able to speak for myself and consent to these things. Like kids can't consent to stuff. So why would we
It's kids, doctors, and parents making the decision, to be clear.
I don't know of any pediatric
Oh,
You cut out
I
there, by
didn't
the
do
way.
it.
I didn't do it either.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
It wasn't us.
Yeah.
Raptured by
I
the
don't-
scripture.
Yeah, maybe she got a call or something. I don't know.
For her, like, okay, I'm glad that she felt, I guess, happy about that. But there are a lot of people who aren't happy about that, especially when it comes to precocious puberty, because it's detrimental to your development. Because it can stunt your voice, it can stunt your height. Now, I don't blame some of my development process on my precocious puberty. I had problems to begin with. I never developed properly in certain areas. Don't think that's due to precocious puberty. I just think that my body was not in a good place, if you know what I'm meaning. I'm glad she's happy about what she like. Not happy. What's the right word?
Satisfied?
Yeah, content.
Satisfied with her results, but like many people who went through precocious puberty and many people who are trans who might have went through precocious puberty are not.
Exactly. I feel like she
I
was
feel
just
like it's
using
something
personal
too that, like,
experience as an anecdote, and it's just not valid to like the general argumentation of things.
it's also not something that we should like force into. Like we shouldn't force. Like if a kid and their parents are like, yeah, we don't see it being like as much of a problem. Like if it's not a problem, then like I don't see why you would have to like force them to go, on puberty blockers. Like it's probably like medically recommended just due to it being socially easier to deal with and that kind of stuff. But like it's something that they should be able to make an informed choice on and still have a choice.
Oh, last note. Kids can decide things for themselves, and they know themselves better than anyone else, including their parents and their doctors. So it's not like they're just kids, so we shouldn't listen to anything they have to say about their own identity. Like that kind of concept, or at least like train of thought, even being implied sometimes, can really bother me. It's like, you don't think they're their own people? Like, just because they're young people doesn't mean, and I knew at 5, Chris, it doesn't mean that they don't know themselves just because they're young.
Mm-hmm. Like we do know who we are. Just some of us aren't comfortable saying at an early age, and some of us are.
So Sylvie, yeah, they're learning about themselves. There's certain amounts of consent about different things. Like we let children make certain choices and more choices as they go on. Like I think a child can make a choice on what food they want to eat for dinner. I think they understands themselves best at this point. To say that they can't make informed choices on what they want to eat would be crazy to me. It's something that parents also, like, whenever like people are going through gender affirming care, that the parents need to be involved, especially if they're supportive of it. If your child would eat Skittles and chocolate if you let them choose, but like there's clearly some limitations on what you're going to allow a kid do and what you're not going to. But that doesn't mean that they don't understand themselves best. If they say that they like wearing dresses more than wearing,
it's not harmful.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
not harmful.
That's the symmetry breaker. Is that chocolate and Skittles are harmful to the child, but you can't tell them. This is a thing. You can't tell your kids that they do not want Skittles and chocolate. Just the same as you cannot tell them they are not a boy or they are not a girl. You can't tell them that they don't experience the identities and preferences that they experience. You can stop them from taking the actions that would align with said identity. You can stop them from taking actions that would align with said preferences. Sometimes that's helpful, like with food, but other times it's harmful, like with gender affirming care.
Yeah, and when it comes to the things like gender affirming care, I think that like there's two separate like real conditions I really see is that there's individuals who support their kids and do what's right and can actually make an informed decision with doctors and their kids about what they want to do as a like come to these conclusions, actually exploring the ideas and really looking through it. And then there's parents who just, reject their kids for being trans at all. And I think that's a very clearly different situation where the parents clearly do not have what's best. They don't have what's the best interest of the kid at heart, just due to the
Even if
clear
they think they do.
statistics. Yeah, it's very clear by the statistics that family support is the number one best thing you can do for being for your kids. Yeah, you are responsible for your kid, but that doesn't mean that you have to make every choice for them. They
Yeah, that's
have
why you're
some
a part
ability
of the
to.
decision, not the whole, like, decider of the decision.
Yeah. Yeah, people have like I really don't understand why there's such like a even for me who's a like I'm autistic. I like black and white thinking a lot. I think it's very nice. Like this. Hello.
We can also, oh, hi. We can also invite up Sylvie if you're up for the possible debate.
I can't invite them.
Oh, are they private or something? Yeah, seems so.
That or they're under the age of 18, but I don't get that vibe from them.
Yeah,
Hi,
if
Triss.
you are 18, Sylvie, come on up. Hi, Triss.
Hey, everybody. I'm so glad you're having these conversations.
You got some boogies going on in the background.
How's that?
Oh, no, I was liking them. Keep them going. No.
It was great.
I'm gonna watch. I don't even know what it is. It's just like the office music stuff. But I'm the mother. I'm gender fluid myself, and I actually had a delayed. They started my period with birth control. I wish they hadn't. And I actually lost my ever loving mind at 16 years old because doctors thought I should have already had my period. I was flat chested for a good amount of time till literally I got pregnant. My youngest is 14 now. We've gone through about 4 months. No, I'm sorry, an entire year of counseling, the last 4 months with a gender specialist. And we're going to start T, I think, starting next week. We're having some issues with, of course, the administration and our healthcare. We're going on to a private plan so that it's covered. So I'll be paying a bit more than I would have had we had a different administration voted in. But they've known since they were 6 years old. They actually told the elementary school before they told me, not because I'm impossible to talk to, but they told me they didn't think they needed to tell me. I've always raised all three of my kids gender neutral. And so they actually went to the principal and informed them that they wanted to use the male bathroom, that he wanted to be use male pronouns. And it was the principal that addressed me when I was picking them up, probably a couple months into it, and I wasn't aware that this was going on. So that's how assertive my son is he knew very early on. He knew his mother wouldn't have a problem with it. He went straight to the school, whether they had a problem or not, and they accommodated. And it's every school is accommodated. They have a great group of friends that vary through the gender spectrum, and they're loving and kind, and they hate their boobs. And I feel so bad that
I 100% get them on that front.
Oh,
And
hell
also, you are an absolutely fabulous, amazing, educated, caring, loving parent. And my parents are that now, but it took them a long time to get there.
And it didn't take me long, but I'll tell you, it was difficult for me as well because I've always been a trans advocate. And I was worried that it was a trend thing because they were so old, because they were, they were in a group. I'm in Northern California, so we're pretty progressive in general. So I allowed them to present and do, what they're doing, but I didn't really take it seriously until he was about 12 and he started his period and he sat me down and said, "No, this is who I am and I need you to take it seriously." Because at first I was like, I think you're kind of being disrespectful to the trans community because there really are people who feel this way. And they're like, "No, Mom, it's me." And it took me a second to really understand that I have a trans son and I have two older sons in them. And so it took me a second and I had to mourn my daughter. And as happy as I am for my son, that was hard for me and my parents. So it wasn't easy, even as progressive and trans advocate as I am. When it's your child, it's still hard to face it. And we took all the steps. We're still taking the steps. They're on some medication for ADD, and they're gonna start T. They're binding. They're doing all the things, and I support him fully. But yeah, it hasn't been easy.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that perspective as well. I mean, a part of it for me and the nuance in my own family is that my dad was a pastor for 14 years, 11 of which I was alive for. So the first 11 years of my life was like, the Bible doesn't teach this, blah, 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 all that good stuff, So when I was 12, I was watching they were totally like PG educational YouTube videos about different sexualities, just like information. That was all. And because I knew I was pan by that point, I knew I was also non-gender conforming. I didn't know I was non-binary until but at 5, I knew I wasn't a boy and I wasn't a girl. I just didn't have the education and the words for it until I was older. But my mom brought me upstairs at 12 when she caught me watching that video and said, "Why were you watching this?" And I said, "Because I'm pansexual." And the first words out of her mouth were, "No, you're not." And I knew in that moment that even if I had the words for who I was as far as my gender identity, that I wasn't safe to tell my parents. So I didn't end up coming out as non-binary until I was 19. And luckily, I mean, so luckily, not just for me, but my sister is also trans. And she knew just as long in her life as I did. And she's 2.5 years older than me. But she didn't come out until I was maybe like 21 or so. So it was a couple years after I had come out. But she'd seen how my parents reacted finally, how they sat down, listened to me educate them. I literally had a Google Doc because I was like, I want to be prepared. I want to be able to educate them. I know I'm going to be emotional. I want to stay focused, all that good stuff. They listened. They adjusted to using gender neutral pronouns for me, they, them pronouns. And my sister saw all of this and was like, okay, I'm finally safe to tell them who I know I've been my whole life, So again, like, it is so fair that it took adjustment and that it took time, and it's a good perspective to have as well as somebody who like is a trans adult but was a trans kid. It's a good perspective to have, but the time it took you to learn was so much shorter than it took my parents. And again, like even though your son had to sit you down and be like, "Listen, this is causing me a lot of dysphoria. This isn't who I am. I can't endure this." You listen to him and you're getting him the care that he needs as an adolescent. And as somebody a decade older than him, I wish more than anything that I had that kind of care and that I had access to that information and care when I was his age. So I just want to say, even though, yeah, you can acknowledge it took you a second and that's okay, you're still all the things I said. You're still an amazing, fabulous, loving, caring parent. So I know I just rambled for a hot minute. Thank y'all for listening. But I adore you and your parenting. I really do.
Thank you. It's been a really long road.
Yeah, I
And
can't say that.
I
I'm surprised that it would be easier for you to get it because like you're gender fluid. You understand at least to some extent much better than I would say like a cisgender parent would. Like I think
right.
that especially if they hadn't been, you know, if they hadn't looked into what being trans is, so didn't have like trans friends or something like that. Like I have a feeling that that's almost good for your kids that you had a head start on knowing all this information and having like a lived experience with it. I almost
Absolutely.
wonder if it makes a lot of sense for trans kids to have somebody who's gone through the same things that they did, because this is something that like I look to my parents whenever I had issues. Like I look to my dad whenever I was having issues that I felt were like kind of male dominant, and like I feel like it'd be helpful at least to have somebody there to discuss and throw ideas back at. Um,
Right. I totally agree. And that's why I'm excited that, well, unfortunately, and last November we had some very devastating news, and I knew what that meant for my child. And I'm kind of in a red county in Northern California, so it was very loud that night, shotguns, big trucks. So I actually sent my 14-year-old to my dad's in outside of San Francisco because it's a much more progressive area, and they have so many friends that are just across the whole spectrum, and so many people to talk to that they didn't have here. And it has changed just the way they are on the phone, the way they are in person. He's happier, and I had to lose him from my life a little bit to do that. But you know, it's something that my parents would have I had to conform, even though, I mean, obviously my mom took me to the doctor because I hadn't started my period, so I had to conform. They physically forced me to conform when I've always just been neutral or fluid. And it was devastating for me. And so this really brought a lot of that up, that I didn't want to make them to conform, even though I felt like it would be safer for them where I lived. So I had to place them in a good spot. And my dad was he's getting a little up there. So it was kind of like giving a puppy to an old dog. I hate to say it that way, but they needed each other. And I'm only an hour away, really. So it's not that far. But that's kind of what the political climate has done. Is I knew they needed a peer group, and I knew they needed to be somewhere safe to where I didn't have to worry about them at public school and walking down the street or rollerblading with their bright pink hair and just being who they are.
I'm like so incredibly proud of you. Like I know I'm a
Mhm.
complete stranger, but like that's what we need more of in this world. There's not enough good parents who are willing to sacrifice their own happiness for the happiness of their child and their well-being, and that's like fucking awesome, amazing. And it makes me so happy when people actually do that properly. Because like yet again, it just doesn't happen enough.
Oh, thank you for the roses, friend. Yeah, honestly, I mean, it does sound like your own personal experiences as a trans person. I'm sorry, I don't know if you would identify as trans or not, but as somebody who was forced to conform in a gendered way, growing up, it sounds like those experiences definitely helped prepare you. Not good that you had to go through it, but ultimately it informed you and prepared you to not let your child go through the same thing. And I think oftentimes we get people up here that um, uh, and not oftentimes, I should say, we have had some experiences where parents or grandparents come up and they just don't understand. And so they think they're doing what's best for their kid, but they're actually not doing what's best for their kid. And so you not only do you are you trying to do what's best for your kid, which could be said about them as well. I'm glad that we have had some people that have come up here and learned and grown throughout like these lives that we do. um but you just know from your prior experience what actually is right to do, um which is a beautiful thing to see come to fruition. Also, I know Palm has been on mute a lot too. I don't know if he wanted to say anything to you. Also, very last thing before I mute again, Tris, you already may have been asked what your pronouns are. I missed it if that was the case.
Oh,
Can
I
I get your
did.
pronouns?
I didn't ask.
Yeah, being gender fluid, I just tell people most people feel she, her is appropriate.
Well, fuck
It's
them. I'm
really
gonna use
confusing.
they, them pronouns.
It works for me as well. And I think that's part, I'm 45, so and I'm autistic, so I'm used to conforming and masking and trying to just fit in. And I think that's even like when you ask my pronouns, I'm like, oh, I don't want to make it difficult for other people. Just whatever you want. So learning to stand up, because my 14-year-old is very much he, him. I am a he, and having to address strangers for him has been a whole world of learning for me, because it's not something I ever felt I needed, but I got to do it for them. So it's like discovering a whole different part of me that's very much more assertive and just justice driven. I want the best for everybody, as hard as it was to stand up for myself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Two things. One, I'm also autistic, wasn't diagnosed, or I'm not diagnosed still. I have a referral for a diagnosis that is like 4 years old at this point, still in my car. But yeah, as an adult who's autistic, for me it's different because I use they them pronouns, because I'm non-binary, because that's what, like, the whole reason I came out initially at 19 was because she, her, or he, him, just the expectation of fitting into a box for one person or another wasn't something I was comfortable with, because I just didn't fit in said boxes. So that's when I was like, okay, it's just too uncomfortable to have she, her, he, him pronouns used for me. Just as recently as, God, I think it was October, I was talking to my sister on the phone, my also trans sister, just as a reminder. And she was mentioning, I believe it was a birthday phone call from one of my grandmas. And this particular grandma does not, it's like very Christian, also used to be a pastor for like a large majority of her life, first like, I don't know, 55, 60 years. Like, she was a pastor for a long time. And she won't use anything except for gender neutral pronouns, even for my sister. And while for me, that is absolutely affirming, for my sister, that is absolutely dysphoric and really awful for her. And I didn't even realize until I was on that phone call last October with my sister, and she was explaining what happened to me. I didn't even realize like how much, I guess, the she, her specifically pronouns were important to her. Almost, I mean, yeah, as important to me as they, them pronouns are. I want to be out of that box, but my sister wants to be in that box, just as much as I want to be out of it. So I also get that adjustment, because even as a 24-year-old trans person myself, I still didn't realize how much that hurt my sister until she was telling me about it on the phone last October. So it is an adjustment. It really is. Like, using she, her pronouns for her was less of an adjustment, I guess, for me. I mean, obviously it still took a while. But when it comes to like realizing the weight of what that is to them, I think what that is to her, I think sometimes, or when I say them, I mean like your son and my sister. I'm referring to the both of them in like plural. I think it's important to them, and realizing that, and then being assertive enough, like you said, like it is. I'm also a people pleaser in the sense that, like, I didn't know I was autistic growing up, so I had to make people think I was allistic to be treated normally-ish. And that I was also trans growing up, but I had to conform to the gender that aligned with my sex at birth, just so that I wouldn't be judged and bullied in certain ways, as somebody who also had to conform growing up in certain ways. It's a shift. It sure is. It's probably easier when you're younger, in my scenario, than it is when you're older. Not saying that you're old by any stretch, Tris, but just older than I am. I know that as we grow up, like, obviously we can still learn and change. I have a 77-year-old other grandma that has asked questions about, accepted, uses correct pronouns, and even when she forgets because she has dementia, so it's fair, she still, like, compares me to my dad now more than she used to my mom, because she knows I'm transmasc, because she knows that that's where I'm at. She uses my sister's and I's correct names and our pronouns as much as she can, you know, and she just loves us and wants to know, like, what's going on in our lives, even if it has to do with us being trans. But she never judges us for that. She just accepts it. So again, different grandmas in this scenario, but you can still learn as you get older. But I feel like making that shift, even for me as I've gotten older, like, it was easier when I was younger, I feel like, and now it's more difficult, but it's so worth it to them, you know. Like, sorry, now I'm gonna get emotional a little bit. It's so worth it to them. It's so worth it to be able to affirm them to the fullest, to know the weight of that, and to break out of our people-pleasing, conforming habits in order to advocate for and protect them. And that's so valuable. It's not easy, and you're doing it anyway.
Very valid. And I feel like I came through my 20s and 30s as like a super feminist, you know, anti-patriarchy. And it was difficult to not think that, hey, everybody should be a they, them. We should drop all genders, just it's all patriarchy. And realizing my 14-year-old needed to teach me something that I couldn't feel in myself. I feel gender neutral. Of course, it seems like everybody should be able to fall into this place. But my 14-year-old had to teach me, no, this is definitely how I feel, Mom. And it was still adjustment. As much as I thought I'm progressive, I'm, you know, a massive feminist, I still had blockages to even those who did actually feel a certain gender. And that was difficult until someone I made came up to me and was like, no, Mom, there really is a binary and there is the neutral, and I fall into that binary on the opposite. I was born, and you're okay with it for everybody else. I need you to be okay with it for me. And it's been an exciting adventure watching them blossom, watching him blossom.
I knew the awkward silence was coming because we wouldn't know who would speak next. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Hi, sorry, I wasn't able to go off mute. I was near my dad, who was very blunt about this topic.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. But yeah, Tris, I am very glad that you are supportive um of your son, because like there are a lot of parents who aren't. As I was just explaining, my dad, he says he's supportive. Doesn't call me by my name though. Doesn't call me by my pronouns, and he has even told me he doesn't see me as a man or a boy.
Inside joke time. Antony. Sorry.
Oh no!
I'm done now.
Why?
Why you do this?
Because I couldn't resist.
Why are you like this?
And I'm very glad that there are parents out there who are actually really supportive of their child, especially like in this regard, because there are a lot of parents who say, "Oh yeah, you're my child, I support you," and don't actually do it. My mom, she is supportive. I do love her, but she's also the person. She did try to fight to get me on hormone blockers when I was going through precocious puberty, but she hasn't entirely fought when it comes to the trans side of me. And like, she is supportive. She does call me by my name, my pronouns, but it also semi does hurt that she didn't fight for that part. Because I don't like I in my head I went through hell going through, you know, the puberty of female and not being able to bind because my parents didn't like the idea of it, and not being able to really do any of the gender affirming cares. Not just because of where we live, because I would be dangerous, but because, my father was also very against it, and I'm glad there are parents like you out there who are very, very supportive of their trans kids and who are going through steps to help them.
Yeah, and to kind of elaborate and add one other thought I had, is that like the minimum that we at least expect from parents is affirmation. The fact that you have a awareness of the political state in the community you live in versus where your family lives in, and what would be safest for your son is above that bar. It's beyond that bar. It is absolutely like when you say progressive, I see that in the ways that you take care of your son. So when we say and we acknowledge that you're doing what's best for him, even if that means sending him to a different location for a while, like that is above and beyond. That is just such good care of your kid, for sure.
Well, we are at that age as well, to where it was really easy for them to not want to be around me.
That's unfortunate.
Right? Not me having
it,
been that kid.
No, I
right?
get that
Like
though.
I remember my dad offering for me to come move in with him when I was living with my mom at 14, and I had all these friends and I was on the swim team, so I didn't want to go. But oh my goodness, that would have been a relief between me and my mom. So we do have a bit closer relationship, ironically enough. And yeah, and it's maybe part being, autistic and having like a disconnect with my own parents. We didn't really bond very well. So me bonding with my kids was almost like not obligatory. It was like functional. Like I needed them to bond with me because we needed to get through the
It
toddler
just
years
makes
and get to
sense.
trust me. Right. It would just made sense that we developed this closeness, but I've always pushed their independence. Like I always knew that their time with me would be the shortest period of their life, and the rest of it would depend on their self-confidence and their independence. So as hard as it is when I like sit and get quiet, I'm like, shoot, I really miss them. I also know that they're experiencing the best possibility with the support, and they don't have to feel like they've hurt me by running away or anything like that, but they're able to get that space and independence and be supported. And my dad lives kind of in a ritzy area, so they're not hurting for anything, that's for sure. And so that made it kind of a simple. It's scary where I'm at. Like literally, I'm 2 hours out of San Francisco, and it feels like Kentucky. It's pretty crazy. And gotten a little bit more. I mean, we haven't had any school incidents. We had a couple of shutdowns, but nothing like it's serious. But if it were to happen in California, I wouldn't doubt it happen in my county, and I didn't want it happening anywhere near my kids. So my middle son is still with me, and he's homeschooling. So it's the things we have to do with the regime we're working with has been very interesting.
A regime? No way, they only
Fascism's
just
difficult.
abducted a president from another country. No, they're not a regime.
Totally not fascism at its finest.
They did it in the dumb way too, where they didn't even like occupy the country afterwards to pretend that they would care about what happened afterwards. They just snatched the president. We're like, bye bye. It's like, okay.
And said we're running things even though we're not occupying.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Well, and that lady that won the Peace Prize instead of him, she was all excited that he was going to hand it to her, and they handed it to the other candidate. So it's just the crazy. It feels like a weird movie. I can't even keep
What
track of it.
what a wild timeline we live in. Where just Operation Just Cause had a sequel. The Invasion of Panama was Operation Just Cause, and the sequel is like it literally was a sequel because it happened on the same day that we captured the Panamanian president, but only 20, 30, 37 years later or something.
Really? Do you think they did that intentionally? They
Oh
had
fuck
to.
yeah, of course they did. They did this, of
That's
course,
a
on
crazy
purpose.
coincidence.
Yeah, no, this is very funny. Ali said this explains my friend's status about being too sober for Just Cause 5. Just Cause is also a video game series that has up to 4 now. So, and it's named after the U.S. invasion of Panama. This is all very silly politics too. What happened during Operation Just Cause? So yeah, it actually went like in some regards. There's like some actual military interest of like this was a really cool operation in terms of like just snatching a country's president. Like this is really rare for us just to be able to go yoink. But that's kind of besides the point of like I don't agree with doing that.
I do. If someone wants to do that to us, please go right ahead.
Please.
I saw
I'm
some
sorry,
jokes
that was
about
iconic.
I saw some jokes about people saying to Panama or to sorry, not Panama, Venezuela, "Hey, we stole your president, so can you steal ours?"
That's great. Can I entirely change the topic to vent for about 30 seconds, maybe?
Yeah, I am going to end live soon because
Yeah, I thought it'd be okay for that reason. Anyways, okay, 30 seconds start now. Anyways, I get allergy shots, as a lot of you online know, or at least like in comments and stuff. I got mine on Tuesday. I'm getting another one on Thursday, and they switch. I get 2 shots every appointment. One is environmental allergies, the other is dog allergies. And every time I get the freaking environmental, like tree pollen, weed, stuff like that, now that I'm on the 1-to-1 concentration, mind you, they start at, this has been over 30 seconds. They start at 100,000 to 1 and gradually go down to 1-to-1 ratio. Every time I get the environmental ones, I have like a 2-inch at least wide, and they're subcutaneous as well, so they're not deep. But I have like a 2-inch wide like hive/rash wherever that injection was, whatever side it was on. And tomorrow I get to go back and do it again. Are you kidding me? This is a day after the shot and I still have this big hive rash reaction thing. Which is normal actually for allergy shots, especially the 1-to-1s. But it's really uncomfortable. Okay.
my reaction is in the comments.
I see.
I'm sorry, your body doesn't like Earth.
Literally, no.
Why is there screaming cats in the comments?
Because I'm itchy. Anyways, yeah, I'll be up in 4 weeks now. I'll be up to the maintenance dose, is what it's called, where I'll only have to go in and get the shots once a month instead of twice a week. And that's for 3 to 5 years. And if I do it for that 3 to 5 years, I shouldn't react to these things anymore, which is the whole reason I'm doing this. It just takes a long time, unfortunately. So I'm gonna just be scratching myself in misery over here.
All right, and on that bombshell, I think it's time to end. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thanks for coming up, Tris. Thanks for being here, Bomb. Thanks for being in the comments, folks. I saw Corrupt down there. Good to see ya.
Bye. We had a better ending than last stream. Last stream was very silly, and
Wait, what happened last stream?
we had a really shitty guest, and then his friend came up. I'm like, I just can't fucking do this. It just ended stream right there.
It was so funny.
Oh my god.
I was just like, no, I can't fucking do it. And then I sat on the page for like 30 seconds on Twitch trying to figure out how to raid, and then I did raid. I went over to Pink and Blue Shark because they were live.
I can send you the clip if you want it, Bomb.
Yes, please.
Alright, no problem.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Boy.
Kerchunk.